Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, Paranormal Portal Podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. There it is. I muted myself. Doggone it. I mashed all the right buttons, had everything going, and then I muted myself. Well, Hot Mess Express on the tracks again. Woo woo. Hello, Paradox Fossil. Hello, Vixen Doe, Ted Branson, our wonderful mods. Listen, all these wonderful mods and wonderful gatekeepers in here. Vixen Doe, pancakes, and bacon. Can't believe it. Choo choo. That's right, Ted. Here we go. No telling what's going to happen tonight. Yes, I've got the funny honey and everything else. Steve Stockton's in the chat. I know he's down here waiting to come in. We're going to bring him in a minute. Glenn Dennison, hello. Uncommon Belief, hello. I saw Salvatore in here, and I think I saw Sarah. She said she was out and about. Otter Girl, welcome in. Everybody who is new here tonight, don't be shy. Please be active in the chat. Any questions, you can ask one of our wonderful mods. You'll see them if you are on YouTube's, of course, watching the live chat. You'll see all the blue wrenches. Just holler one of them out. Hello, Kathita. How you doing, sweetheart? So tonight I'm going to open up right before I bring in Steve and ask him this. I know he can hear me. And I want him to think about this before we bring him in. After all these years, I'm going to say Steve's got at least 45, 50, being active in having experiences and looking into with a serious mind as well as a inquiring mind, into things. I'm sure that both of us got started in things like Ripley's Believe It or Not and ghost stories and stories told around the campfire or the fireplace or the dinner table or the back porch or leaning over the fence. We heard some good ones. And that certainly needs to be considered part of the collection of data, over 50 years. Same for me. And what I want to put out there is the question of, do we have enough evidence? Do we have enough evidence to say something is going on? Do you feel like you've seen enough evidence to just absolutely take it out of your mind that the afterlife absolutely exists, that energy cannot be eliminated, only changed? That, however broad you want to make your brush, paint it across this paranormal. But for sure, as far as I'm concerned, ghosts and the evidence that we have collected. And Steve and I often reach back, way back into the 60s and 70s and 80s. If you were around, you might be familiar with some of the shows that we often talk about and show here on the show, when we're allowed to, when it's in the public domain. In search of, which I can't believe is in the public domain. Even CBS Mysteries that wrote screenplays around true stories, ghost stories that happen. Hickory Dickory Dock. They go and they buy an antique clock that they bring home, a grandfather's clock that is haunted, that is carrying attachments and tears their little house asunder until paranormal investigators come in there. Another one, The Ghost with a Knife, CBS Mystery. Absolutely. A ghost story that really happened in the 70s. And he was trying to find a way to let them know that the boiler was going to blow. trying to protect their child. The ghost couldn't really find that way to communicate. So, well, the question I'm asking is, when is enough evidence? And if you look back over maybe the years, the months, the decades that you've looked into this, do you feel we have enough evidence? Because I think we topped that off a long time ago. Let's bring this old rattlesnake in here. Oh,
Oh, there.
he's a dragon tonight.
Caught me vaping. I'm
Go right ahead. Here, I'll go with you.
five days and 1 hour without a cigarette.
Woo. Oh, my goodness. There you go. There you
And
go. Well,
look what
vape
it did to
away.
my hair. It made my
Yeah,
hair
vape
stand up.
away. You look all purdied up. You all shined up
Yeah, I
like
thought
a
I've got
diamond.
time to hit this before she brings me in. And as soon as I did it, here he
As you
is.
did. Well, I'll go with you. I've got a vape. I've got cigarettes. I got all kinds of stuff here. So, and funny, honey. That's lovely. We'll be dragons tonight. How you doing, love?
I am doing exceptionally well.
Congratulations. I mean,
The first 3 days of kicking any habit like that is always the worst. And
oh,
for me,
Lord
the
God, yeah.
second day was the absolute worst. Can I say hammered shit on here? I can say
Hammered
that,
shit.
right?
Hammered shit.
I
You
felt
wouldn't want
like
to be
hammered
around me.
shit. I got up. I had a
Keep it up.
headache, body aches.
Worse than you love.
Everything hurt. My sinuses were plugged because they were used to the menthol. My brain
Yep.
is screaming. I was dreaming about cigarettes. I
Oh, my
dreamed that I
God.
that I was finding packs of cigarettes around the house.
Good
But
Lord.
today, yeah, it's been
Well, I've got one in my hand, so you better cover your eyes.
doesn't bother me. You can smoke right in front of me.
Get your I don't
But
want people to think that
that
I'm
was how I
heartless,
did it
but
before. I got a vape, little nice unit. It's got like
I
uh,
like
L-
that. Man, that's
LED
serious.
screen on it and
What's
everything.
that got on there? Is that a ham radio on that thing?
Yeah, I believe
What do
so.
you got going on?
I can contact the
Everybody's saying
mothership and have them
congrats.
come pick me up.
Oh
But
my God.
this is how I quit before. I just kept putting a little less nicotine, and now I only use the 3 milligrams of nicotine. I just put a little bit. That's mostly
I know I'm a
uh,
heartless bitch. This
peppermint
is
in
oh my
there,
gosh.
and then
Peppermint.
the nicotine flavor is chocolate.
Ouch.
So I'm
Okay.
vaping peppermint patties here.
Peppermint patties. Okay. Got peppermint, boy. That stuff will roll the back of your
Well,
eyes. It's strong.
and it started out, it was set way
Hello,
too high.
Tom.
You can adjust the
Hi, Tom,
wattage.
honey. Welcome in. I'm
And the
sorry.
guy
Go
that
ahead.
set it up for me is a longtime vapor, and he set it on like 80 watts. And man, it's like, whoo, knocked the top of my head off. But
Long time
I've
vapor.
got,
Is that a Beatles song?
I think so.
Long time vapor. I think it is. I'm trying. There's a tune forming
No,
in the back of my head.
they started out with paperback writer, and I thought, no, nobody will ever listen to that. So it became a long time vapor. And I want to thank an anonymous friend
What's
who
happening
sent me
now?
this. It's it's gonna be that kind of show. Cisco's been the funny, honey. Steve
I've
Stockton's
had two
taking his
sips.
clothes off. No, somebody sent me this. I don't know if you can see it or not, but
I
it's the
love it. I
Danzig.
love it. From what I
It's,
can
a,
see of it, I love it.
it's the Danzig devil skull there,
Yeah, yeah.
and but the same font,
Stockton.
but instead of Danzig, it says Stockton. I wouldn't buy anything like that for
Far
myself,
out.
but thank you to the anonymous
Far out.
person that sent me that. I will
That's
wear
so
it since
nice.
it's a gift.
That's so nice. And
And
I
brought
just
to
think
you
it's
by
wonderful. Oh, Pathwater. I
pathwater.com.
was looking up their website the other day.
Drink
I'm
path.
serious. We might just go ahead and
drinkpath.com. They
sponsor them.
sent me a case, so trying to work
Yep.
out some kind of sponsorship deal.
Well, I'm proud of you, my friend. You just go ahead and do it. See, when I
And
try to quit smoking, I don't tell anybody. But what I'm doing is just helping Steve stay strong. If you can't sit around people that,
you have to.
it's like,
You're
if you quit, I often wonder, somebody's quit drinking, you want to buy them a beer, do you just slide them the $4? Is that the same thing? It's
no,
not the same
you
thing,
buy them
is
the
it?
beer, but you're such a good friend, you drink it for
I'll
them.
drink it for them. Yeah. Because I
So
think you need to support people that are
so you're
doing whatever.
smoking my cigarettes so that I don't.
I'll do it. I'll do it
Like
for
that,
you.
you ever
I'm
heard
not
that
going to do
song
menthol,
about
though.
Pinkard and Bowden? Elvis was a narc. He knew every pill he'd eat was just one less on the street. Elvis did it all for you and me.
There you go. Hey, Echo. Welcome in. Lindsay. Hi, honey. Echo. Indiana wants me.
Lord, I can't go back there.
Bum, bum, bum. So how's everybody doing tonight? So what is the answer to that question, Steve? Let me see if I can reword it another way. Does your consciousness feel at this time that you've seen enough evidence unequivocally say that ghosts exist, hauntings exist, and these things, these paranormal things do happen, period.
I had enough evidence time I was about 4 years old
There it is.
to know. I saw my
So we're
first
just
full body apparition between 5 and 6, but I'd had stuff occur when I was 3 and 4, and
Renee.
uh, evidence is in eyewitness stuff, and I
Right,
don't
right.
know.
Well,
I,
that's it. It's
I
evidence to you. You saw it. You know what you saw.
yeah.
You know what you saw. It wasn't mass
Yeah,
hallucination. There's still parapsychologists to
well,
this day.
wasn't mass anything. It was just me. But
Right.
I know what I saw, and I had somebody tell me one time that's the equivalent of turn the stove on, put your hand on it,
Look
see
at
how
me.
long you can hold it there, and then take it away, and then I'll tell you, oh, that didn't burn you. That's not hot. You
That's not
know it
hot.
did burn you. You know
Yes.
it was hot.
It's
It's
MK
just
Ultra.
it's the same difference.
You just got a curtsy here, Sir Steve.
Thank you, Kathina. You
I
haven't
told you it
haven't
was
seen
shining like a diamond, like a
the new
diamond. Oh
look.
gosh, that song.
It's still a little shaggy, but it's
Shine on, you crazy diamond.
work
There,
in
that's a much better
progress. But
song.
I didn't want to go too
Shine
short with it, but I
on, you
left it
crazy
like in a difficult. So I'm
diamond.
going to go ahead and get the difficult part out of the way first, and then
Now
go
that's
down.
playing in my head. I've
But
got the whole guitar thing of "Shine On You Crazy Diamond" playing in my head.
well,
Isn't it amazing that you can do that? It's over
that's something.
decades.
Now we're probably going to kill somebody in Pink Floyd because
Oh,
of that,
please. Oh,
but I've got
Blue
over
will
on.
have us both. Blue will have her heads on a platter like John the Baptist, I
Well, and I
swear.
was just going to say I've got an account over on
That's bad.
iVlog,
I'm sorry.
ivlog.tv. And today I played a bootleg over there. It was the BBC sessions of Pink Floyd from like 68 to 71 or 72 or something like that.
Yep, there you go.
And I just played over 4 hours of
If you're
Pink
with
Floyd
you,
over
it's
there on my High Desert Radio. Go check it out. I'll drop a link in the
High
chat
Desert.
here.
Drop a link, Steve, because I don't have that one to give to the mods. What's
Yeah,
going on here? Can't wait to see you on Paul Sinclair's show over here in Northern England this Thursday. Paul is a fantastic human being. Are you going to be on his show?
yeah, I'm going to be on Paul Sinclair's Truth Proof show,
What? There
talking
you go.
my stuff there. First time on that show. Happy to be in the UK, and I think he's in North Yorkshire, so it's
There's
going to
some
be a good
wonderful
time.
shows over there.
I think it's
Wonderful
Thursday
shows.
here. I've got a link up. I'll get the dates ironed out.
Oh, well, that's just synchronicity, honey. So what that
Thursday.
is I'm going to answer that, and then Steve, if you want to, of course, put in your uh, opinion, go right ahead. So the thing is what I think that is basically you think of somebody or they're thinking of you. Okay, so they're about to call you. They're thinking of you. This might be someone you don't think that you're really connected to, like a cousin or an aunt, or it might be a sister, it could be a best friend, a husband, spouse, child, whatever. I think the closest, the stronger the love link, I think the stronger the energy on this one is. And it may not be what you think is love. It might be just an admiration for another human being. It might be a connection, a soul connection. So don't weigh it or measure it by that, because there are things going on in the universe we just cannot understand right now. But if it's a soul connection or something along those lines, so they think of you, and when they think of you, you for a second get that spark, a zap in that energy, that connection, that cord, what have you, that's attached to that person via energy, via this connection. Okay, and you get that little spark, like, is this like, and you think of them. It might be a flash of their face, it may be something that you did, just a flash of, like, almost like a video of, like, when you're walking down the street or having a coffee or talking to them, and it puts their image and that person in your mind, and then the phone rings. Well, if you think about the timing of that, from the time it takes them to pick up their phone, get their contacts, or dial rotary dial, or push one of those princess phones where they have the push button, light up buttons, any of that. So you get that, and it's a zap of energy. It's a connection in that energy, almost like that one gift we show where it's all this energy is going across the globe. I think that's what it is, and it's a mini Earth version of what goes on between us and our loved ones and that connection, because the minute you think of them, they're thinking of you and they're in that space, in that energy. Steve, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. And it's one of those things, like I said, it's something I've experienced.
There you go.
Uh, I'm 59 years old, and so I've been experiencing these kind of things for 56 years or so. And it's like we talked about on Sarai's show that time. It's like, what he likened it to a jigsaw
100%
puzzle
satisfaction, baby.
that you're trying to put together, but you don't have the picture on the front of the box to even see what your picture you're trying to put together. And then after you spent several hours or days or weeks or years doing this, you figure out some joker has mixed about 5 or 6 puzzles together, so you have
Yep.
pieces that fit nowhere.
Right.
So
right. And that's the beauty of it. That's the mystery of it. That's what's so interesting about it. That's why Steve and I can get here Monday, after Monday for Into Infinity, I hope, and talk about this infinitum, and never really have to say the same thing twice. We might say, similar things that sound exactly the same because they're truth, or it's an experience. Like Steve and I have talked a couple times about going on other people's shows. I just did one a week ago. Great show, Dark Horse Paranormal. And, if you ask me to tell a ghost story of something that happened to me, well, I only have so many. And then I have other ones that aren't really mine to tell. They're cases that I was on, and I might tell a piece of it, but that's a personal story. If you've ever been through an experience or been on a case, you know what I mean. It's integrity thing. So I only have so many stories. So of course I'm going to tell the same one more than once because it's my story, and I don't change it because it actually happened. So this is the thing. So beware of people that come in and have stories. Well, this happened to me, and I saw a Bigfoot, and I got fairies living in my pillowcase, and I've got demons living in my closet, and I've got lizards under my bed. I don't know what lizards have to do with it. Hold that up again, Steve. But you get my point.
That's some of my stories,
My
some of
strange
my
world. There you go.
paranormal. These are my paranormal experiences. The way that came about, I wrote this book, and I would go on this show or that show, and like that, they would always ask, "Well, these are other people's stories that you've collected.
Right.
Do you have any stories to tell?" And I'd tell one or another, and invariably the host would ask that. If it was a call-in show, people that call in would ask that. And so that's how this one came about. And there's another volume of this in the works. And then Cisco, that's like the book that we did together.
Yep.
We are all children in the wilderness of the afterlife, a guided tour through a haunted life.
Look at just roll that off the tongue, don't it?
Took me about 2 years
got a cadence to
get that down. Cisco likes those long titles, but those are her stories. I'm like the color commentator. I'd come along behind her and tell something anecdotal or something to support what or back up what she was talking about there. But it's a really good book. Find that on Amazon if you want to know more about Cisco and how she works. And I saw backstage for the first time we're able to give ourselves titles there. So I'm the
cool. Department of Boo Sheet.
Department of Boo Sheet. I thought we're going to be talking ghosts tonight.
We are.
That's why
we are. It's so good. Well, see, that's the thing, because I studying this case now. Tonight, what we're talking about is the San Pedro a case of 1989. I believe I've got that, but me and numbers, so don't bet any money on that. But I believe it was around 1989, and it's one of those cases, Steve, very much like we remember it flashing through our lives. Maybe we were on our way out the door when it was on television back
I got it
then, and just caught a glimpse of it.
I got it confused with the Entity case out of Culver City, California.
Most people do.
I've been to that house. You can't go in it; it's a private residence. But I got my picture taken in front of it. Going,
it's good stuff.
But and I could have sworn I watched the documentary where they went in the Entity house, and I've seen that. They talked to the woman that was being attacked by this demonic.
Barbara Hershey played the part.
Whatever it was.
Yeah,
it's a true story.
With Ron,
I watched a documentary where a guy went up in the attic and he got, but it turns out that happened in San Pedro. So sometimes these
cases. You know what the connecting entity, speaking of entities, in that is Barry Taft. Now, Barry Taft is still active. He's got over 50 years, just like us, around the same time, very close in age, I would believe. Parapsychologist.
Between the both of us, we've got over 100 years experience.
Yes, 100
experiencing in this field. I'm not an expert. I'm far from it.
Me too.
I'm not an expert on anything except maybe breakfast and going to the bathroom or something like that.
Pancakes and bacon. Little oatmeal, walnut. Well, that's the deal. That's what's been over in my mind this whole time when we're doing this, because obviously it's a paranormal podcast, and we have fun here. We're having a good time, as Dusty Slay would say. If you know Dusty Slay, then you're laughing, because dude's funny. He's clean. And when I need to laugh, I tell you guys all the time, lift your vibration. I try to practice what I preach. It doesn't mean that I'm not out there struggling every minute, every day, not to, I'm telling you, it's a test every minute sometimes, not to get angry, not to judge, not to, you have to keep telling yourself that's none of my business. I only need to inject myself in that if I choose to. I can just horse with blinders, that kind of thing. Try to do your work and then live your life outside and away from the craziness and the crazy people as much as you possibly can. You have to get in there every once in a while, throw some light, throw some love energy, throw some, advice. There it is. If you want it, take it. If not, God bless you. And then zip-de-doo on. And it's hard. But I'm sitting there thinking about this case and this evidence, and I'm going, how in the world? Now, Steve, you hit it. A lot of people mix it together.
Good stuff.
Those two cases and get them mixed up, because Barry Taft was involved in both. He was very active during that time. Parapsychologist, credentials out the EMF meter there. Yep.
Yeah.
And he's got, and you often heard him and Lloyd Auerbach and people like Uri Geller all around the same time. You had, Richard Sennett, you had, God, I'm going to forget people, but that were out there, on the talk shows. They were out there on the specials. They were on Unsolved Mysteries and in Search of, and some of these other movies that were coming out around that time.
Well, even like
Chariots of the Gods and stuff.
Some of the normal shows, like I think it's Real People or That's Incredible or something. They had the first place I ever saw the Toys R Us ghost, Yanni Janssen. That was on one of those shows.
Yep, That's Incredible. That's Incredible.
On Halloween or something.
100%. And I had to go through and pull 4 different like local TV station stuff. That's Incredible. I believe it might have been an Extraordinary. I know it was an In Search Of, and a couple other things to get that whole story. And I said, I think this could be one of the problems, because when we have shows like that, they're only going to give you so much of the story. They're going to edit it, of course, and they're going to chop it up in the amount of time that they are allotted to tell the story. Am I right? Yes. I know I am. So I'm just going to go ahead and answer my own question. So what happens is, like that Unsolved Mysteries version of that story, say Amityville Horror, you're going to get the gist of it. You're going to get the outline of it in the allotted time that they have. And you're going to remember that, like, because visual is so powerful in the memory, so powerful. Sometimes our mind changes the color of the shirt or this or that, when we start to think about it. Ask Blue about witness testimony. We fill in the gaps, right? But we get the gist. And in our minds, we categorize it like that was a story. I mean, on this show, just this show, Steve, not yours and mine combined. If we do yours and mine combined on all the channels you're on and all the stuff I've done and radio and books, just that we've been involved in, the total tonnage of evidence and true stories of everything from UFO, alien, cryptids, ghosts, missing people, portals, time slips, on and on and on, would stagger a team of oxen.
Oh yeah.
And still we have people that are skeptical and say,
and what a lot of people forget about those shows, those are not like a serious scientific documentary. Especially now there are some documentaries out there, but the shows that we just mentioned there, those are infotainment. They take the nugget of the truth.
Good way to put it.
They do recreations. They make it spooky and stuff. They want people to be scared, to be entertained, to watch it again, and to buy Joy dishwashing liquid or whatever they're selling in the commercials.
Here's Blue, witless testimony.
Yeah, but again, it's one of those things. You can hear a dozen different versions of it, and there's little nuggets of the truth and all that. And that's been our job, if you will, is to listen to that and try to pick the stuff out of it and assemble the most true and correct version from all the different versions. Because I've heard stories put forth on those where I know the story, maybe even know the people that it happened to, and then the version that's presented on TV is a little bit different. But
Yeah.
again, it's called programming for a reason. But yeah, then you have these detractors, and that's what gets me. You could put a video of a ghost walking through your living room,
True.
capture it, put it on
True.
the internet, and one of the first things you'll get, oh, that's fake.
Melissa.
That the
Hey,
the
girl.
debunkers and the people that the armchair quarterbacks and experts and stuff there are just, oh, that's fake. Well, what's your proof that it's fake? I mean, I can say it's
Yeah.
real, you can say it's fake, but we're just talking heads until we have something to back it
Isn't that
up.
true? It's so true. But see, that's it. 100 years combined, just us, Steve. 100 years combined. You couldn't name all the people you've sat and talked to, back porch,
Not at
leaning on a
all.
fence, and sitting around a campfire at a tree, camping around the dinner table, playing adults playing cards, telling
Well,
stories,
that's just
and
like
you're
those
downloading this information
the
all your
missing
life.
person
Me
cases
too.
that I cover. I will go on a show and they'll ask me about one specific case. Well, just in the National Park Disappearances series alone, that's 300 people in that one little series, 30 episodes of it. And there's,
There it is.
got other series over there. I've
The
got
total
maybe
tonnage.
hundreds of videos, and it all piles up. And sometimes, if you put me on the spot, now there are certain cases that stand out that I can tell you every little nuance. Dennis Martin case from the Great Smoky Mountains, but I lived that case. I was about his age when he went missing, lived in the same town. That was near and
And
dear
it's
to my heart.
interwoven throughout your whole
But
life,
you can ask
Steve.
me about somebody that I talked about last week. I might not be able to remember the details because
Right.
there's just so many of them. And I
Mhm.
don't write those scripts. I have writers that write that for me. I'm the voice. I show up, I read my part, and that's none of my business, sort of. I don't mean it facetiously
I know
like
what you
that.
mean. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and
And
then
that's
after
a
you
good
you
point,
said
Randy.
this funny, or you said this date when it was actually this date, like
Yeah.
I'll talk to my writers, but they usually do a really good job researching. They cite their sources, but I'm not going to go back and
Oh,
fact
that's a
check
good
I'd
word.
never get anything done.
That's a
So
great
you
word.
have to trust the people doing the research. That's what it boils down to.
Right.
So
And
do you
that's the truth.
trust Charles Fort? Do you trust Lloyd
Mhm.
Auerbach? Do you trust
All the way back.
all
All the way
those
back.
people, all the way back and
Harry
beyond?
Price, 1938.
Yeah.
The Bible. People tell me, oh well, all this is that goes against that sacrilege, this and that and everything, demons, yada yada yada. I'm like, hold on, stuff's in the Bible. Read it. And all the stuff, and some of the things in there is to deter you away from knowing your power and having any kind of independence or any kind of free will, and understanding how strong your energy is. We talked about that last night with Morana, and we've talked about it with many other people. So you've got to discern. It's like Steve and I were talking about last Monday. We were talking about David Icke. Poor guy, maybe protected, because we're not trying to do anything to David Icke for sure.
Watch your
But
back, David.
but it's like, I'm not agreeing with every word that comes out of his mouth. Of course not.
But if
But there's
half
some,
what he
I
says is
can't throw
true,
the baby out with the bathwater. I'm able to discern. I'm able to listen to that and go, okay, that clicks. I got to put that in the back seat, and keep my eye on that one. That one sounds like crazy. I'm going to put it way out here. But you know what? 20 years ago, I did that with a lot of things that have proven themselves true to me now. So again, that's what you get with 50 years. 50 years. It's 100 here.
those John Todd tapes recently.
Yep.
Those are from the late 70s. I heard those in church on Wednesday night.
I know.
Scared
This is
the
what I'm saying.
crap out of me. But if you go back and you listen to those, now some of the stuff he said, it didn't make any sense, but a lot of it did come to fruition. Stuff that he talked about, it was later found to be true. And yeah, he died in prison on some kind of assault charges, trumped up stuff. But what better way to get him out of the picture and to shut him up talking about
He sure
that?
did, Echo. Yeah.
He was so visual and out there and appearing at different churches and stuff that they couldn't just outright kill him. So I believe, and this is just my opinion, they put him in prison and then they gave him cancer, just like they did the guy that we talked about, weird scenes inside the canyon. Not Robert Guffey, but the other guy.
The man who wrote the book. I can see it. I can see his face.
Dave McGowan.
But thank you, McGowan. Yeah.
I believe he told the truth, and he got some kind of weird form of
and
cancer.
it just keeps happening.
Fast, aggressive, and I saw him on the show. He's coughing, and then a couple of months later, he was dead.
Yeah.
And I believe there
Across
are
the board,
whoever that is, whoever they are, they will shut up certain people because that's
very much like UFO abductees and things like that. There was a lot of things missing. Steve and I talked last week about Aurora, Texas, and 1897, and article in the paper after article from people who saw it, people who were there, people who were involved. The guy whose windmill that got knocked down when the thing crashed, right, Steve? And all across the paper, here comes Jim Mars with copies of all of that. He had to go dig it out and bring it to the public for proof. And they moved the doggone bodies and the memorial. And in the article, it says that the pilot was, of course, dead. So they buried it and gave it a proper Christian burial in the churchyard cemetery. And as soon as Jim Mars and his interested group started digging up information to put out that
They went and
documentary,
dug it up, destroyed the tombstone.
yep,
There's no, and
yep,
now the police will chase you away if you even go to the graveyard looking for where the grave used to be.
yep. And we showed last week people in a documentary before they did all that stuff in the late 70s, the grandkids of these people who were there and remember these things that happened. So, all of this cover up for sure, that causes a lot of the doubt and conspiracy theorists and tinfoil hats and all that stuff. Listen, after 50 years, but that tinfoil hat turned into a tinfoil crown a long time ago. It's got big old shiny gemstones in it, and it's loading up by the day.
And just some of the stuff I've had firsthand information
Yep.
with. Operation Paperclip's the one I like to talk
Oh
about.
gosh, yeah.
I've had people, that didn't happen. We didn't do that. The United States government did not bring
I can
over
prove it.
Nazi scientists and put them to work. Oh, yeah? Well, my dad was a scientist at Oak Ridge National Laboratory. He worked right alongside some of those guys. He knew it was the truth, and they were like
Werner
very
von
hush-hush
Braun.
about it.
Everybody went to Argentina.
And I told the story about the kid that I went home with from school one time, went downstairs, and he's like, I want to show you something. And he goes back, and people back in the 70s,
we can't handle the truth, Renice.
people had a bonus room or a family room or whatever we call it downstairs. So we were in that room.
Rumpus room. Remember that one?
Yeah. And he goes back to this panel wall and pushes it open, and it's dark in there.
Oh,
and I thought, okay, it's a bomb shelter. A lot of those houses, the one I grew up in didn't have one, but
duck and cover.
I knew other people that had bomb shelters in their basement. But I thought, okay, he's going to show me a bomb shelter. Woohoo. Well, he turns on the light, and there's the biggest collection of German war memorabilia that I have ever seen.
Wowzer.
I mean, it was in cases.
So
it was
much
on
of
the
that.
walls. And I said, wow, Tom, I'm not going to say his last name because it's a German name. And I said, your dad really likes his memorabilia. And he's like, he gets in all close and he said, you don't understand. He said, you see this? And in a glass case, there was an SS uniform. He's like, that was my dad's uniform. So this guy had been, that high up, an officer, and then he's working out. My dad knew him at the National Laboratory.
Ain't it true?
But Operation Paperclip never happened.
I'd like to know who's buried in that. What do they call it? Nuremberg, where they had the trials and supposedly they executed a lot of them, and there was like this memorial burial, little cemetery in the back and all that. And I don't want to get morbid or nothing, but I guarantee you, there's as many real Nazis in those graves as there are real witches burned at the stake back in the day, if you know what I'm saying. So Operation Paperclip, all that stuff is all true. It's all true.
Well, MK Ultra. Oh no, that never
nobody
exists. That
believes
didn't
the
happen. We
truth.
didn't do that. That's made up. And then later they admitted, because stuff started coming out through FOIA requests, oh well, it did exist, but we abandoned that back in the 50s or the 60s.
Dude,
No,
I personally knew one of the translators for Nuremberg, and I've heard stuff, just in my military, in and out. Like anybody's been in the military, because you've got these long-term, brotherhood connections, for life. And anytime, you get with that person, it's almost like that. It's almost like an instant camaraderie. Again, you have something in common. So stories are told and missions are talked about, and to the extent that we can. And I have found out through the years things that weave together that I have no right seeing these people that are connected with this one thing to prove throughout the decades that the story was absolutely 100% true and exactly what I thought. In fact, more so than I thought. And just little synchronicities like that through life. Like, why am I being shown that? Why in this time and why is the universe showing this to me? Why am I sitting here now talking about evidence of the afterlife and ghosts are real and going back to the 70s and bringing this stuff up. Because again, Steve and I have sat here and talked about Bigfoot and sepia, and that was supposed to be a joke title saying we're going so far back with Bigfoot evidence that the daggum film is turned into sepia. You know, we've got so much evidence, and we have the same with ghosts. And this particular San Pedro haunting, I believe most people, if you did get to see it then, or you saw reruns and syndicated documentaries or unsolved mysteries or whatever, you saw a piece of it. And I think that that's burned in the memory. And sometimes we do get it mixed with the entity and everything else. 2 women, 2 kids, 1 house, big trouble. And it's easy to mix them together. But if you pull this case apart, this case is very much like Ted the Smurls with the haunting. And again, I can't throw out that evidence because the Warrens were involved. I cannot do it. I mean, I've heard the kids' testimony. The father, there's too much evidence there. There's too many neighbors that saw it, too many, the church community, that other prayer warrior community that came and helped them. All of these people saw evidence. The same with that crazy one in England where the girls were flying around and everybody says, okay, that was the girls jumping on the bed and stuff. I can't remember the name of it. But again, there was police officers that saw refrigerators moving. And yeah, the Smurfs, Ted, you know, all these different things. You know, we studied ad nauseum the research on Amityville and proved that something was happening before, you know, the DeFeos ever even moved in with that property in that house, because people had exorcisms on it. So that's not something you just do. House blessings, yes. Exorcisms, no. So, you know, again, we're digging, and I'm saying tonight that I think we have enough evidence, and we're still looking, which is, people look for different reasons. And I'm not saying we shouldn't investigate anymore. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, at this point, the evidence should be as well as what we already have. Not this is new, because it's not. We have fantastic evidence from the past, and I think tonight we're going to prove it a little. And I think I'm going to surprise everybody here about how many unbelievable things, and I use the word unbelievable for a reason, because our mind says this is unbelievable. But at this point, it should be 100% believable with the amount of witnesses. Yes, witness testimony gets things wrong. But when you separate people and you, well, I don't want to say interrogate, let's say question them separate, and, you know, they might get the color of the shirt from blue gray to blue or baby blue. But if you see a refrigerator fly across the kitchen, you saw a refrigerator fly across the kitchen.
It doesn't matter what color it was, whether it was a Frigidaire, a Philco, Kidmore, whatever. It was a refrigerator that flew across the kitchen. I dropped a link there. It's called theblackvault.com. And this guy has made... I
got friends there.
This guy has made it his life's work.
Yes.
To just FOIA request after FOIA request. He's got stuff about all kinds of rabbit holes, the paranormal.
Very well done research.
That is an amazing website.
Amazing the way they do it, because
eye-opening sites,
nobody else knows anybody else is studying, and it all comes together in one big thing, and then they take it. It's a blind study basically with multiple people, and then it comes in and they run the picture. Say it's a picture of a UFO. They run it through all the different devices to try to see if there's, you know, layering or anything else. It's a wonderful thing. The Black Vault, highly recommend it. Wonderful. Jeremy absolutely recommends it too. He helped me work with a picture with that, you know, and to see if something was real. I mean, they ran it through everything, and boy, I'll tell you what, it's an older lady walking behind a group of people eating dinner in a one of those it's not really a tracksuit, but you know, like the older folks like to wear with the matching pants and jacket. It's kind of like a tracksuit, but some of them make noises, some of them are silky, but hers looked like almost like she was going to Miami.
I like those with the material where it rubs together.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's going to start a
I remember
fire
the teacher one time when all the kids were wearing that, they made the kids stop wearing them at school because you couldn't hear from going down the halls, all the noise from going down the halls. I was like, oh, that's crazy. I said, he's got 5 pairs of them. Holy crap. What do you mean he can't wear them, you know? But anyway, it's crazy. And I think you're going to be surprised at this case. Some of it is going to take a little time. I've got you 2 videos. The first one is definitely if Mulder. I don't know. Did Mulder quit smoking as well, or does he still need to go out and have a cigarette?
I haven't bought any more, so he's
Okay,
still going through the butts
he's
out there
going
in
through it
my
as well.
ashtray till I
Is
get
he
them
digging?
empty.
He's not digging in the butt can.
Let
Are you
me
digging
see.
in the butt can, Mulder? No. He's too good for that. All right, get him a pack of buglers. Let him roll his own. So
Yeah.
the first one is about 10 minutes, and it's the extraordinary. And I'm bringing that one up first because, first of all, we love Warwick Moss, and he's not wearing a Speedo in this one, but you can imagine it if you want, if that's your taste tonight.
Yeah, you
But
told me that today that somebody was on. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Because he's got that story. We went up to get the strawberry milkshake, and he said strawberry. The way in his Australian voice, it's wonderful accent. But this is a great little show. There he is asleep. Look at the little darling. He just all tucked up in there.
He's over there asleep.
Yeah, he is.
There's certain words I could say that would get his attention.
Get
real
him right
quick
up.
when
I bet you tacos one.
Chicken. That's his
Lacra.
kryptonite. So
Yep. Malware gear. Yeah, kind of like parachute pants. There's no windbreakers. That's one of the words I was looking for. Windbreaker. And yeah. So yeah, Black Vault. You run your stuff through that. If you get any evidence and stuff, Lindsay knows exactly what we're talking about too. She's been in the game a long time. She's a paranormal investigator. Many people are that listen here tonight. So basically what I'm saying is this. We have lots of evidence, and I think sometimes it's good to go back and look at some things we already have with a new light and a new set of eyes, because also maybe when you saw it, your consciousness wasn't what it is now. Maybe your vantage point is a little different. Of course it is. Life changes people, hopefully makes us wiser. I know some people that it hasn't, but that's okay. So last week I promised you Barry Taft. I found him. So he's in here, and the thing is Barry, this is the one case he'll talk about the entity and think it's one thing, and it's not quite what you saw in the movie, and we won't get into that tonight. But again, he's looking at it from a parapsychologist scientific point of view. And this case still has him baffled. He is still intrigued by the evidence found here. And I don't think the evidence really has gotten a good its due. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to do it tonight. So the first was about 10 minutes. And then the second one that I'm going to play, I'm going to have Steve and I both on while it's on, because I want to stop it in a commentary throughout it, because it has a lot of the evidence presented that I don't think you guys ever heard or knew that happened in this case. So what do you say we roll that bean footage?
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Here we go.
Now, I may need a bathroom break in here. I haven't figured
right
out how to
ahead.
stop that yet. I've stopped the cigarettes. But,
that's fine. And this is the extraordinary one with Warwick. So go right ahead. The second one is the one we're going to commentary through. Unless you want to say something here too, and you're more than welcome. But here we go.
Just some of the stories that lie beyond our normal understanding. Tonight, on The Extraordinary.
That film is remarkable. It was shot 21 years ago. Good evening. I'm Warwick Moss. It is a story with the kind of disturbing undercurrent that built up over the Amityville horror incident. It is a ghost story, but with this one, there are photographs and videotape that have excited not only Hollywood and the US publishing world, but scientific circles as well. So far, the people that hold the evidence have kept wraps on most of it. But our investigation of the real story behind the hype has turned up elements we didn't expect, including some video of the San Pedro ghost. It is either the story of an exceptional haunting or an elaborate hoax. It happened here, in this drab turn-of-the-century bungalow at the edge of the harbour in San Pedro, an hour south of Los Angeles. At the time, it was the temporary home of 32-year-old Jackie Hernandez, who was separated, pregnant, and struggling to support herself and her 2-year-old son, Jamie. Circumstances some point to as the likely source of an overactive imagination. Like Amityville, the story embodies eyewitness accounts of foul-smelling bloody liquid oozing from walls, collapsing beds, ghostly apparitions, strange lights, and something extra. The first recorded attempted murder of a human by a ghost. The alleged victim was this man, Jeff Wheatcraft, a still photographer who was a member of a team that investigated the haunting. Wheatcraft is a former school principal with a master's degree in administration.
Something did take me and put a plastic clothesline around my neck and pulled me to the side of the attic and hung me on a nail.
It is this kind of testimony, photographs and videotape that has fired the imagination of publishers and movie makers. Jackie Hernandez's version of the haunting, the one that prompted the investigation, begins in 1988. She says it became a 3-year nightmare that involved not one, but 2 ghosts, one friendly, one vengeful. Her story came to the attention of University of California psychophysiologist Dr. Barry Taft, a long-time investigator of the paranormal.
I guess what's particularly unique about this case is that the phenomena had a distinct belligerent, malevolent nature to it, in the sense that it almost seemed bent on hurting people.
Taft teamed up Wheatcraft with a professional cameraman, Barry Conrad, a self-described cynic when it comes to the supernatural.
I wanted to see proof. I wanted to see something that would convince me personally that the phenomenon was real. Now, I had read a lot of material about haunting phenomena.
In the beginning, Jackie's haunting experience began mildly enough, with her cat chasing unexplained shadows on the walls of the bungalow. Then she began to hear voices in the attic. One day, she saw pencils fly out of a pencil holder. Then came the day of the ooze. Jackie was washing dishes with her babysitter, and suddenly, the blood-like liquid began seeping from the kitchen walls.
When I pulled my hands out, the first thing, that's when it first appeared, was on my gloves underneath the water. I pulled them out and there was this orange stuff on them, and I didn't show Chrissy. I was thinking, I wonder what this is. My first thought was I cut my finger or something, but that wasn't the case. And I turned around to show her because it was all over, and then I noticed it was coming out of the glasses, it was coming off the walls, it was just oozing everywhere.
When details of her nightmare came to the attention of Conrad and his colleagues, they were ready to categorize it with the thousands of other duds and hoaxes reported each year.
We didn't expect anything to happen. You could go to hundreds of these cases and nothing would ever happen.
Then they spent 2 nights in the house, and the San Pedro haunting was about to become legend. The team was armed with sophisticated electronic sensing devices, video cameras, infrared detectors, and image intensifiers.
Early on in the case, some viscous fluid was flowing out of Jackie's cupboard, and we took some samples back and had it analyzed, and it was sort of a clear fluid with a orange fluorescence to it, and it turned out to be human blood plasma.
I'm going to run that back so you can hear it one more time.
Took some samples back and had it analyzed, and it was sort of a clear fluid with a orange fluorescence to it, and it turned out to be human blood plasma from a male, an older man. It had a heavy copper and iodine content to it. It was heavily oxidized. Now, what is that doing flowing out of anyone's cupboard in any house, let alone Jackie's?
Bazinga. And that is exactly the same thing that happened to Mark Nesbitt and Carol Nesbitt in Gettysburg, in that little historical house out there. It was on a farm in the middle of the battlefield. And he was on this show and told the story twice. And I've sat and talked with both of them, and the same result. Now, this one blows me away. They could even tell because of the copper content, the iodine content, and some other things, that it was an older male. The story gets even deeper.
Even during their interview of Hernandez on the first night, Conrad and Wheatgraft heard furious banging and scraping sounds in the attic. The noise prompted photographer Wheatgraft to climb above the ceiling. Almost at once, his 35mm camera flew from his hands.
I have the camera up behind, over my shoulder, and I'm firing 1, 2, and I remember firing into, I think it was the third frame. And as I fired into that third frame, I get this jerk of this camera being pulled out of my hands.
Ask any self-respecting paranormal investigator, parapsychologist, or experiencer with a little bit under their belt. That takes a lot of energy. That takes a lot of concentrated energy for a, let's say, earthbound spirit, an earthbound human to do. Of course, if it's another entity, they're getting their energy similar, but they've got more experience, and, you know, it changes things a little. But for a human spirit that is stuck here and just angry or whatever, hanging out, won't leave, whatever the story, that takes a lot of energy. So that is by far stunning evidence, that alone. And most people graze over this and don't give it the importance I think it deserves. Do you see what I'm saying? There you go. Exactly. And to be ripped from his hand like that. And I've heard, researching this, at least 3 more people, I think, that were there, like coming up out of the hole or whatever, and saw it at a different angle. You know, several different photographers up and down out of this crawl space, attic, an old attic.
Completely pulled out of my hands. And, you know, that's frightening because you know that there's nobody in that attic.
The experience this night prompted an investigation of the Jackie Hernandez case that would last 2 years, for the ghost in the attic was about to go haywire. The second incident in the attic involved Wheatgraft again, almost as though the ghost had somehow singled him out as his target. Wheatgraft and another investigator had climbed into the rafters together. At first, they could see and hear nothing unusual. Then
I gotta stop it again. Do you guys see that? Well, it was just a photographer hanging out of that hole. That was crazy. Do you guys see what I saw? Hold on. Sorry. It was too good to pass up. I think it's right here. Look at something looking down at the hole. I think it's one of the photographers, because somebody would have said something, because that was just creepy looking, the way his eyes probably turning red from the flash, more than
somehow
likely.
Singled him out as his target. Wheatgraft and another investigator had climbed into the rafters together. At first, they could see and hear nothing unusual. Then suddenly, in the darkness, Wheatgraft felt something around his neck and cried out. In the confusion, the camera flashed.
And the next thing I remember is my neck is pulled over to the side near a rafter, 2x4 rafter, and I'm hung on a nail. I didn't know I was hung on a nail, of course, but I knew that there was something around my neck. And I knew that I had lost some time there because I don't remember anything being put over my neck or around my neck or anybody grabbing me or anybody picking me up or anything picking me up. But all of a sudden, there I was.
I told you, get down, get down!
This is the only photograph of the hanging the investigation team has so far released.
Put something around my neck.
Oh, shit.
Oh, my God.
Jeff, get down right now.
Oh, my God, I knew it, I knew it tore.
Please, get down, please.
What is this?
I wanted to get the hell out of there, and I think the statement was when I got downstairs was, it's definitely raising hell. And it was raising.
I don't know. What's on?
Whatever it was vicious.
Gary, get down out of there, buddy.
Can you find my glasses?
Gary. Jeff.
Look at this. Look at
Gary,
this.
get down, for the love of God.
Jeff,
I'm fine.
Get down,
Jeff.
Gary.
tell me what happened, buddy.
Well, I don't know, Gary. I told Gary that there was nothing happening up there, and he turned around and came. He was coming this way. All of a sudden, I feel this thing around my neck, and it's got me hanging, and it's pulling on my leg.
Those that accept the Hernandez story believe that the ghost could be the spirit of a seaman named Herman Hendrickson, who drowned in San Pedro Harbor in 1930. Conrad believes that Hendrickson contacted them one night during a session with a Ouija board.
So we tried it on a lark that night, and I have to tell you, it was an incredible experience. It was the most frightening experience that I had. What happened that night was right out of a horror movie. The room got extremely frigid, extremely cold. The table shook violently. This entity communicated in very clear sentences, spelled out very intelligent words. And he told us that he was murdered. I said, "Where did you die?" And it said, Pedro Bay. I said, "What year?" It said 1930.
If Hendrickson is the vengeful ghost, who is the friendly orb of light that has so far acted benignly to both Hernandez and the investigation team? Jackie believes it is the spirit of the man who built the San Pedro bungalow, John Damon. Hernandez says both the friendly ghost and the vengeful one have left her alone the past 2 years since she settled in Los Angeles. She doesn't know where the bad one has gone, but believes the friendly one actually bid her a graceful farewell. Near the end of the haunting, Jackie says, the ball led her to the headstone of Herman Hendrickson in a San Pedro cemetery. It hovered above the grave for a moment, then suddenly disappeared.
I give you the San Pedro haunting. Now, I'm going to go back and play another little piece of that, but just for an outline, you have a woman. She's pregnant. She's separated from her husband. Never really got the full story on what it was with the husband. It was some kind of abusive, maybe too much drinking, maybe just arguing a lot kind of thing. She never said he beat, the kids or anything like that. We never heard. She moves away enough to do that in 89, right, Steve? 89.
Yeah.
So she's in San Pedro, Cali. She's her young son, 2, 3, 4 years old. She starts immediately to get things. The first thing that happens to her, she's walking by, through the living room, a pencil case, one of those old cups with all the pens and pencils in it, flies off the desk in front of her and across the room. That's the first thing. Lights. She describes these things as, her words, globs, gelatin in nature and consistency, but glowing like an orb, as if it was a light. But so I guess almost like, imagine, this is my description, not hers, but what I got from hers, like almost like a glow in the dark gelatin, Steve, chunks and globs, or whatever you want to call it. I call them globs, mashed together and floating through her living room, through her bathroom, through her kitchen. Now, coming up, you'll see, I believe, where she actually got pictures of those, and she's very excited about it. She's calling one of the paranormal investigators about it and describing this. And again, through multiple other videos that I've watched on this case and things that I've read on it. The next things are so many different disturbances. She's got smells. She's got things I'm going to bring up. The biggest stuff is still coming. This is nothing. This is nothing. Then she calls. It's enough for her to get a hold of the college. You know the story. Barry Taft, the parapsychology department, the department of whatever it is at the university there, goes in, and there's a skeptic who's also a photographer. There's a guy who's a photographer, and he's kind of sort of, he's like lukewarm with this, show me something. But he's not a disbeliever. The other guy's right out skeptic. Barry Taft is a scientist. Always has been, always will be. And that's fine. But he looks at things different. And I love his descriptions. But you heard this man come out of his mouth one of the most staggering pieces of evidence that is not unheard of by me or Steve and some of you. The liquid coming out of everything you heard her say it, Miss Jackie Hernandez said it herself, this liquid starts coming out of the glasses, the cabinets, the wallpaper, the doors, along with these glow-in-the-dark gelatin globs of light. And things are moving around the house and getting more violent. Too numerous to mention the things flying around. Pots, pans, dishes, silverware, knives, you name it. Okay. Steve, did you remember this case as bombastic as what you just saw on Extraordinary?
That's the Australian version of it. I never seen that one until recently, but the other versions that I did say, the American versions were a little different, but there's, I think, much more compelling evidence in this one than we ever saw on American TV. I don't know why
words
that would
right
be,
out of my mouth. It's absolutely fascinating.
Means that why would you do that?
I don't know. I don't even know that it was intentional or just, if it bleeds, it leads, or what, different producers. I don't know. It could be nefarious. I wouldn't put it past them.
And I never,
but
when I spent a year in Southeast Asia,
fascinating.
I would watch the news over there in the Philippines or Japan,
background noise,
and then watch the news, same news from America, and it'd be different spin, different angle, different agenda. Same with the BBC. You hear a story one way on there, you hear a different story. So it's the same with the paranormal. You have to listen to all the stories, all the reports, all the evidence, kind of put it all together, shake it up real good, and see what sticks and then what falls through the sieve there.
This is a theme right here. We're just bringing it, Salvador. That's the thing. Again, as I stated from the beginning, I don't know. Does anybody hear anything? Lindsay says she's got some background noise. It might have been me scratching around.
Anything.
It could have been me, sweetheart.
Here. I've got my heat turned off because otherwise you would hear whoosh every time.
Yeah, I don't know.
The heat comes on, but it's totally silent.
Not the babies.
In here.
The babies are asleep in the blanket. Oh God, Lindsay, they're getting so big. I can't. If I can get them,
it's like another video.
I'll get them on here tonight so you can see. But it's going to take both my hands and maybe a foot.
Playing here in another window, so
could be. I don't hear anything. Let me know if we're 5-5 out there, guys. So this blew my mind. So this is why I'm so excited, because for one, it's, as Steve said, an Australian version. Now I'm hearing voices, Steve.
I heard something that time, but I don't know what it was. I heard it in my headphones, but I don't.
I heard it too.
I don't hear anything.
Did you guys hear that?
It was in the stream, but not in the room or in my house here.
That was a guy's voice.
It was like a man's voice, and it was like "ooh" or something. I don't know. This studio is haunted.
Let's
the
mark
bathroom
this time.
back here. There
What's
was a
our
lady.
times? Anybody got the time? Throw the time up here, Ted.
There was a lady passed away in this bathroom back here back in the 80s. There's a restroom.
Mods, throw the time up here.
In my studio here, but that sounded like a decidedly male
9:05
voice.
p.m. Mark it. Yep, but how long is it into the stream? 1 hour, 10 minutes, and about 10 seconds, I'd say. Throw it up in the live chat so I can remember, and I'll go back and I'll listen. But I heard it.
Good stuff.
It sounded like it come from behind you, Steve. I swear it did. I mean, I almost expected to see somebody walking behind you.
There's a wall behind me.
But do you know what I mean? That's
Mulder
where it
didn't
sounded.
hear it.
He didn't? Okay.
He's down here. He's fast asleep.
Maybe it's just us, but
And
man,
if
that
he
was
hears,
weird.
if anybody comes to visit or if there's anybody at the door, he goes nuts. So
That was so weird.
that was weird. Ghost in the machine.
Woo! Man, woo! That one gave me kind of chills deep down. It really did. So,
But to
Anyhow,
me, it sounded in my mix here like it came from your side. So that's
did it really? Because it sounded, I swear, it sounded like I almost
is
expected, I had to
Mario out there
physically,
running around in his Speedo again.
it could have been Mario. No. No, he's not feeling good
Well, now I've
tonight.
got
So
neighbors. There's a
you might
window
have
on
heard
this
him.
side of my studio. I've got it
But it
covered
didn't
up.
sound like that. It
It
sounded
might
like
have
it
been
came
my
from behind
neighbor
you.
yelling at his dog or something. I don't know.
It could be, but we got it marked. We'll go back and we'll listen to it. We're all on it. But this case, and plus, I don't blame it for giving you the willies, because this is what I'm saying. There's some fantastic cases out there, and I dig for them, guys, for you. I swear I do. And when I find one again and finally get it sorted, and try to present it to you, every time we do, we find a little more that we didn't know, or we get a little deeper. We find out the story is a lot deeper or bigger or a lot more than we thought. Maybe some of the things we thought were true weren't, but maybe some. Now I'm hearing it again.
I didn't hear it that time. I hear somebody talking,
I
but
do too.
it's in here. Wait a minute. I hear it in the headphones, but I don't hear it. The only thing I can think of is somebody outside next door. So the houses aren't that
It
close,
said, "Oh my God." I heard it plain and simple.
but somebody marked that timestamp.
1/12/29.
Okay.
See, Lindsay heard it. Didn't you? I swear, plain as day, laughing, and said it like he was laughing. That's the weirdest thing, Steve. There's nobody else in here. There's
Next time
nothing playing.
we take a break, I'm going to go look and make sure somebody's not out there watching my TV or something, or it didn't turn
Come
itself on, or
It's
I usually keep
possible.
the remotes where the cats won't walk on them, but now
Please
that
tell me your
has happened.
TV's on, Steve.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna
And
go
Edna
look,
heard
and then
it
I've
too.
got a 72
Yep.
inch TV in there by the
My niece heard
fireplace,
it
and
too. Plain as day.
I'll go check and make sure it's not on. There was nothing on
Woo!
just a minute ago when I
Jelly's-
took Mulder outside. I don't know why I can only hear it with the
Talking again.
headphones on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pause right here. I'm gonna
You
go
go
in and
look,
take a
Steve.
look.
Take a baseball bat with you. What is it, Salvador? I don't know.
But see, Mulder
I
is
hear
just he's just laying here. Now the TV,
See?
music, stuff like that doesn't seem to bother him at all. But
It does sound like TV, Ted. That's exactly what it sounds like. And
okay,
I heard something
I'm
say,
gonna
"Oh my
I'm gonna
God,"
go
but in
check.
a laughing kind of way,
If I
like
don't come back,
they were laughing as they said it.
send the officers from
You
welfare
take
check.
a
But
stick with you. You take a stick with you.
yeah,
I'm going to talk to them about this evidence. But
I've got a light stand in here that I could brain somebody with, so I'm gonna take
yeah,
that. With me.
everything's a weapon, Steve. Just go ninja. Just go ninja. Just
Oh, I got
pull that shadow person
aluminum
out.
bottle
Bring that
full of
warrior
water. I can
forward.
bounce that off somebody's
you
head.
just-
Thank you, Pathwater.
Just absolutely just bring out the
I'm
warrior.
gonna go have a look, make sure the door's locked, the TV's not on, and
Well,
I'm
you
gonna
come
go
right back and
outside.
let us know.
I'm gonna go out front and see if
Tension
there's anybody
builds.
out in my neighbor's yard over there.
Throw some
Okay.
salt over your
I'll be
shoulder,
right
Echo
back.
says. I'm not joking, y'all. I heard that plain as day. Several words. We'll go back and we'll check, but man, that's creepy. So here we go. This
Then came the day of the ooze. Jackie was washing dishes with a
listen to this again
babysitter,
one more time, just
and
a little bit.
suddenly the blood-like liquid began seeping from the kitchen walls.
When I pulled my hands out, the first thing, that's when it first appeared, was on my gloves underneath the water. I pulled them out and there was this orange stuff on them. And I didn't show Chrissy. I was thinking, I wonder what this is. My first thought was I cut my finger or something. But that wasn't the case. And I turned around to show her because it was all over. And then I noticed it was coming out of the glasses. It was coming off the walls. It was just oozing everywhere.
When details of her nightmare came to the attention of Conrad and his colleagues, they were ready to categorize it with the thousands of other duds and hoaxes reported each year.
We didn't expect anything to happen. You could go to hundreds of these cases.
Okay, so here's the deal. That stuff first came up. She's got her hands. She's wearing the gloves, the dishwashing gloves, big back then, the Playtex gloves, different colors. Still around, but changed. And when she pulls her hands out of the dishwater, that's when this gelatin, like not different than the ones that are flying around in the house, the glowing globs of gelatin stuff. This is different. This is colored like amber colored blood. Now think about it. Almost like a jellied plasma It's got that red orangey brown tinge to it. And it's on her gloves from the water. She thinks she's cut herself or something. That's her first thought, is blood. So it must have had that hue, correct? And now it's coming. Then it starts to come out in other places, the walls and everything else. They take it, they analyze it, and you heard what good old Barry here said. And it came up as an older man's blood, high contents of copper, high contents of, and then this poor guy. Now, many videos on him talking some, which I cannot bring forth because of copyright, but this guy, when you see this picture and you see it now on social media, it pops up in the paranormal groups and all this other stuff on the Reddits and the twatters and the, what is it, the grinders maybe. So
Instagranny.
anyway, Instagranny. You know, it comes up and they'll show it and they'll go hoax or this, and they'll tell a little bit of the story. And then, so what was it? Anything scary to report? As
Not a thing. The only thing on out there is the fireplace. There's a gas fireplace. Both the cats are laying out there in front of it.
I don't get it.
I
heard it plain as day.
The TV's not on. I went and looked outside.
The only thing I can think
now,
of
my
is
next door neighbor, his porch light's on, but there's nobody out there. It's a Navajo couple that lives over there, and they have a sheep farm, and they've got a couple of sheep dogs that the sheep farm
that
is
didn't sound like
somewhere
the
else.
sheepdog to me. That sounded like a young man about middle-aged,
Yeah,
young to middle-aged, laughing and saying, "Oh my God."
Well, that's another ghost here. Sandy
and a
saw a little boy.
conversation between more than one person.
I've seen the robe of an old woman. I think that's the lady that passed away in the bathroom back here. And then I heard the voice of a younger woman down the hallway one day. So this is a new one.
What does what mean, Renise?
I think the old lady's not here anymore.
Sweetie, we got a delay, and I can't. I haven't pinpointed the amount of time it takes for when we say something for it to actually get through to YouTube, and then it's just a titch behind.
It's about 30 seconds or so.
It's a titch,
maybe
but
it's
enough. It's enough for 30 seconds is enough for me to totally forget what I just said. I don't have a clue what you mean. If you put down here what I said, and I'll tell you what I think I meant. If it's not too, sometimes I don't know. I just say things. You know, I'm nobody. I'm just theories and, you know, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But this blows my mind. So when we see this picture, and a lot of times it'll be like hoax or this. So I dug in and I did a lot of research. So the other thing that people throw out there to try to debunk this is saying, oh, sure, you know, his buddy, the other photographer guy, this guy's screaming and he's taking pictures. Because there's one picture. Actually, there's two. Because there was a guy downstairs that was looking up through the, what do you call that? The door, the hole.
Access hole to the attic.
There you go. The attic door. He snaps one too. So if you heard during that video, they said this is the only picture that's been released so far. But since then, others have been released. So one of the things that people use to debunk this is say, oh, sure. And, you know, his buddy's choking and he's taking pictures. Well, hold on a minute. It's dark. They're going up there in the dark. What happens when you take a picture in the dark and you've got it set to flash, Steve?
There you go. It lights it up. And I think that's, if I remember correctly, the guy wasn't even all the way up there. He just stuck the camera up there and took the first pic.
And used it for the light. Do you see what I'm saying? His first thing is he hears like, oh, whatever he heard. And he uses it like, oh, gosh, what's happening? He snaps it just to get, you know, maybe at the same time, a picture of what might be happening per luck, but mostly for the light. And snaps it again to get another one because there was no lights up there. And then this guy tells the story. It's the same one, yet this is after and another time, separate time, when he was up in the attic. This is the man that had the camera jerked from his hand. Remember, he said he held it over his shoulder, snapped it, just random, trying to get something, heard something, snapped it again. And he snaps it on the third time behind him, and it's jerked from behind him and gone. Now, here's the deal. If the next video doesn't have the little caveat story that goes with that, I will tell it. But for now, I'll just mum, because there's a second vantage point to this. There's another guy up there, this guy who took this picture. Okay, so we get his point of view, and you've never heard that in any of these unsolved mysteries or this last one that we saw. And I just found it very profound, because the more eyes on, and the more people that, when you look at their faces, Blue, you know what I'm talking about. These people are telling the truth. And this case happened in 89. And we still have people that are going, that's nonsense, calling us crazy, saying, I don't need to hear about that. I've had people in here past couple of nights saying they can't even share this because people think they're nuts, or, don't want the junked up, whatever, and I get that. But as Lord knows, I don't want it either. I get so many emails, I don't even know what's happening. So the thing is, this happened. And he didn't have time. You've got Jackie Hernandez is right down at the bottom of the hole there. She's looking up as well as best she can. And she's telling the story of how it wasn't the other guy couldn't have hooked him up there. There was only seconds between where he was and how long he was gone. He wouldn't have had time to rig it. It was dark. There was nothing up there. They had emptied it out to get a better, I guess, better scientific, pictures or whatever. She had a few things up there before when she first went up there. And they don't tell you about the most magnanimous thing I think that happened. And I promise you, I'd have been out of there, and I've had this happen to me, so I can speak from experience, and that's coming in the next video too. But this right here, Steve, is enough.
I hear dog barking now. Did anybody hear dog barking?
Yes.
I still think it may be my neighbors over there.
It could very well be.
Like
He must be loud.
They have a sheep farm on somewhere else in the
I don't know,
area.
Steve. That was pretty clear,
And
man.
they've got a couple of sheep dogs, and if the porch light was on, but there was nobody out there, they're out there loading stuff in their truck to go do whatever they do.
Man, that just reminded me. It reminded me of that old saying, porch lights on, nobody's home. You know what I'm saying?
The investigation team.
I'm sorry. So this was just another piece. I'm only stopping it across the evidence because I think it's amazing. And of course, the most amazing stuff here is about the man that died. Now, I want you to remember this guy, the dead body of a man found floating early yesterday. This is back in the 30s. And when they had the seance, the guy came through. And I can tell you there are other accounts of this story that gets deeper into the little impromptu Ouija board. There's Barry Taft and these guys. And again, these guys aren't like best buddies. These are people that are hooked up with the university, happen to work with, what's that department called back when we were in high school, that VHS or whatever, when all the nerds were part of it?
The AV department.
Yeah. They're like that.
And boy, they would chase you away too. No, don't you? I'm going to thread the projector. No,
I don't know why that's funny, but
oh
God, it is.
And the TV. Don't touch anything.
Yeah.
But they're very protective.
They're bringing the overhead projector and shit.
I promise you.
The TV rolling in the TV.
Here besides the animals.
Oh my God. It's blowing my mind, Steve. It's clear as day. So I don't know how close your neighbor's front porch is, porch light or no. He would have had to been right behind you.
He would have had to been right outside the window. And the only way he could do that was to be in my yard on this side of the fence.
It's freaking me out, dude.
Probably 8 or 10 foot gap between the house and the fence, and then ever how many feet from the fence to his house, and then the front porch is around on the side. Now he might have been out in the backyard. The other day I heard a ruckus, and he and his wife were up there on the roof cleaning the chimney. They've got a gas or a wood fireplace, so I don't know. But when I heard the voices, though, I didn't hear it here. I heard it in here. And then I took the cans off and
right.
Didn't hear anything. And I timed it. It's about 6.44 seconds. Time that we do something on here and it shows on the screen. So it's I overestimated, but it's less than 7 seconds.
I did. I heard dogs barking. I did. There's just no denying it. It was clear as a bell. Everybody in here heard it too.
I mean, there are radio anomalies and stuff.
Saying, "Oh my God, that was as clear as."
If you've ever lived close to a ham operator, or I've had wireless stuff. I used to have a wireless
what I thought ham
guitar
operator
thing for electric guitar, and I've
when
had disco music coming through the speakers before.
Maybe
somebody was
the mic
doing
and
something on their radio, and my wireless transmitter between my amp and my guitar was picking up something else. And I used to have a friend that had a really high powered
Could be.
CB radio in his truck with a linear on it, which run at high wattage. He could go to Burger King or McDonald's or wherever and park in the parking lot, key the mic, and they could hear him coming through the drive-through. And he would mess with people. A car would pull up. He'd key the mic. Hey, can I take your order today? I want, a cheeseburger.
She heard voice.
We're out of cheeseburgers. Go away.
Should
And-
be out. Yeah. I mean, that's it. It sounded happy. I mean, it sounded happy. Maybe it's just somebody hanging out behind you enjoying the show, Steve.
And
Who
there's
knows?
nobody in the backyard
Maybe,
either.
if I was a ghost listening in,
and
I'd be
I've
laughing
got
my ass off
security lights
too.
back there.
And you know what I'd be saying, Steve? How much evidence do these people need?
Here's your
And that's
evidence
why,
right
oh
here.
my God, and laughing his
Oh my
ass
God,
off
you
fits.
still need more evidence?
Still need more evidence.
100 years
They're doing
combined
this in
experience
89.
between the two of you, and you still need more evidence?
Absolutely.
Oh
It's
my
crazy.
God. There you go.
Yeah, there it is. It makes perfect sense to me,
It
Steve.
said 1930.
Here, listen to
If
this
Hendrickson
again.
is the vengeful ghost, who is the friendly orb of light that has so far acted benignly to both Hernandez and the investigation team?
Okay, now she's saying there's also another one that's friendly. But this one old dude that he's talking about from 1930, they go deeper, other things go deeper into the case and the little impromptu seance they had. The guy comes through, tells them that he was drowned. He drowned there at he called it Pedro something. And he was killed. And the reason that he attacked that guy with the clothesline was because he looked like the guy that killed him, and it made him mad. And this all came out on the Ouija board before they ever, of course, found the newspaper clippings on it. They got that evidence. Then they went and found the newspaper clippings and the evidence that, yes, some guy, I forget the first name, but he got the first name right and not the last, if I recall, and died out there under, suspicious circumstances, probably written off as a drunk fell in or something like that. Who knows? But he was murdered. This guy is one of the guys in her house. I have no doubt about it, because of something that's going to come up in the next video. It's going to knock your socks off. So, we're bringing a hearing journey tonight. I'm telling you, because this is amazing to me. Very much like the Haunted and the Smurls case. It's like, what else do you need? The guy's raped in his own living room repeatedly. Can't stop it. The church has been there. Priests lived with him for days. Things flying around the house. Bathtub coming on and off. I mean, just...
Same with the entity
What do you
case
need?
in
What do you
Culver
need?
City, California. It happened repeatedly. It happened in front of the lady's children. It happened in front of people that were there. The
Yep.
priest came, and it just got worse.
Right.
So-
Right. Now after all of this is done, now we're jumping toward the end because this is the way the extraordinary did it. There's another important piece to this, and it's right here at the end. I'm gonna play it again. This is so
John
important.
Damon. Hernandez says both the friendly ghost and the vengeful one have left her alone the past 2 years since she settled in Los Angeles. She doesn't know where the bad one has gone, but believes the friendly one actually bid her a graceful farewell. Near the end of the haunting, Jackie says, the ball led her to the headstone of Herman Hendrickson in a San Pedro cemetery.
What? One of the orbs. Nobody in here calls them orbs. They call them balls. They call them balls of light and everything else. Again, different place, different time. And she's describing that the balls would change and sometimes have more substance. And then these are the balls of light that she's talking about earlier in the case when they came up looking like clear gelatinous matter that was glowing, not just a ball of light. Very strange. And I don't know if I've ever heard that before, where it changed substance like that. Also in a place where the walls are basically bleeding, all this other stuff, just like they said in Amityville. I can't say that one was true, but this one here, multiple witnesses, parapsychology department, labs. I don't know what else to say, Steve. And now one of the balls of light just led her in a cemetery to the gravestone.
Oh, the guy that used to live in the house.
Yes.
There you go. Oh,
It
but
hovered
that's
above the
just a
grave for a
coincidence.
moment
And then
and
disappeared
suddenly
into the headstone. Look,
disappeared.
what more could you want, folks?
Oh my
I
God.
mean,
There you go.
and you know what? The thing is going to blow your socks. It's 9:27. We've had voices in the back. Steve, it was like right behind you. I'm not kidding. I'm not letting it go. I
Yeah,
just
the
hope
only
they're having a
thing
good time.
through this wall, there's a
Get them a cup of
restroom
coffee,
right
set it
here,
to the
and
side, pull
then
up a stool.
there's looks like a closet here, but my central heating unit is in there. So there's and a closet over there that's I've got a table in front of it right now where I'm going
It
through
could have been
stuff.
a ham radio. I was sitting there trying to think through the equipment and what would be the best receiver. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
because
saying?
all this is electronic. I've got a cloud lifter
Yeah.
for my mic. I've got audio
Oh,
interface.
hell yeah.
I've got 2 monitors going here, but I don't have anything playing in the background. I've got a
I don't either.
Amazon
It's trippy.
Echo
It's
Fire over
trippy.
here
No
with
clear.
ALEXA. I can't say her name or she'll start yapping. But it was silent here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything like that here, man. It's
But
cats.
it's weird
Unless the
that I
cats
was
are
hearing
talking.
it through the
I think
headphones.
it was a ghost just going, man, these people, this is an amazing amount of evidence here, and everybody in this live chat, I mean, that goes without saying that, they're way past, this is just adding to their files of data that they've collected and they're right
Mhm.
in the same. There it is again. Jarrett. 132.39. Guys, are you hearing this mess?
I didn't hear it.
That doesn't sound like we're picking up some. It sounds like a TV in a back room that just keeps getting, like commercials do. It'll get loud and then go away and get loud and go away. It's weird. It sounds like it's right behind you, and you say it sounds like it's behind me. Right?
Well, I couldn't tell if it was behind you. Orally, I couldn't tell where the spatial where it was, but it sounded like it was on your end because of the way I hear you in the mix here.
Wow. That's so wild because it sounds to me almost like as I'm looking at you, so it would be your left.
Well,
It sounds
I've
like
been
it's
on
off to
other
your left and
shows. I've
behind
been
you.
doing my own shows, and people say that they've heard voices
Incredible.
in the stream. So
And it
I don't.
doesn't sound like somebody having a ham radio conversation because I at one point in time, I swear I heard a dog and I also heard almost another voice
Well,
further
there are
away.
dogs over there. When he lets his
Conversation.
dogs out, especially when it's cold, they bark to go back in. But
It's weird. It's so weird. He's in New Mexico, people. His neighbor isn't as close as we think. He would have had to been like right up,
he would have
So
had to been standing right
I'm sure
outside
there's an
the
explanation for it, and who knows,
and
paranormal or
and again,
not,
to
but
be outside that window, he'd have to be over the fence. I've got a 8-foot
over the
privacy
fence.
fence, and then there's a good 10, 12-foot gap between the fence and the side of my house.
Mr. Stockton, that's an excellent damn name for this episode, Over the Fence. Because if you
There you
ain't
go.
over the fence by the time you finish this one, and again, it blows me away. And when I went apart and started picking this and seeing there was a seance, I never heard about that. And these are again people from
Yeah,
the
the
college
part
sitting there,
the
Barry
part
Taft,
that I remember, and again, that's been a lot of years ago, but I've seen
trippy,
it since then. I don't remember the part about the Ouija board. I don't remember the part about the orb in the graveyard.
the camera.
There was a lot of
Oh, I
stuff.
hope that this is in this next video where they're talking about that camera, because when you hear that, it's just going to solidify it even deeper. I promise, Yeah, I guess sound does travel further at night. And if it's windy and stuff, I believe it could come on the wind. But this was right behind Steve. I mean, I got these headphones on. I got a damn good mic. I got damn good headphones, and I'm just saying that, sound can be thrown for
My mic's
many,
not
many
even turned up
reasons.
as high as it can go, so
Yeah, for many,
it would
many reasons.
for the mic to pick it up, it would have to be loud as I'm talking, but in another room.
It was almost like it was moving as well. It was like it was closer and then further away, like a person would naturally walk.
That's
It
so
was
strange.
trippy. It was so trippy. It was like, I
Yeah,
swear,
that's
I was
happened
waiting for him
before.
to walk behind Steve.
I
And
remember
I'm
one
very
time
good
you
with
and I
sound.
were on with
Very good with
Soraya.
sound.
You
Yeah.
remember that? You and I were on with
Mhm.
Soraya, and he was
Yeah.
hearing like a fourth voice in there.
Yep.
And I thought it was you or him.
Not
He thought it
unheard
was
of,
you
but
or me. You thought it was me or him, and it turns out it wasn't any of us.
it wasn't any of us,
We
man.
talked about that after he finished
So
recording.
like
Like
I said, if it's some
he's like,
ghost
"Well, who was that?
laughing,
Who was that other voice in there?" Like, I don't know.
saying, "Oh my God," and laughing like, "Oh, these humans, these living people, they're so ridiculous." And I guarantee they do that all the time if they have the wherewithal and they're not full of anxiety, and they can discern, because there's plenty of them that can, highly intelligent and hear everything you say if they want to. They're in and out. They don't just stand there, and that's creepy. But you know what I'm saying? And there's them too. But this is just trippy because like I said, I'm very good with sound. If there was ever a game show where they did voices, of course I couldn't do anybody current because I don't pay attention anymore. I couldn't tell you who the Kardashians were doing who and what. No, I couldn't tell you. I don't care. Or the Bachelorette and all that mess. I don't watch pretty much TV. I'll watch a show, binge watch it, I'm done. Like Yellowstone. I love me some Beth Dutton. Beth Dutton is my spirit animal. I love Beth Dutton so much.
Dorothy Kilgallen was one of the panelists, where they'd have to put the blindfolds
What's my line?
on. Yeah.
What's my line? Yeah.
Listen to the guests and then try.
She often won too.
Remember, they had Andy Griffith on there one time, and he had this fake accent, and they couldn't figure out who he was till they asked a bunch of questions.
Andy Griffith was a cheeky monkey.
Yeah.
It really was. And Andy Griffith, I gotta respect him, man. You might not know. He he wasn't as friendly and loving as we'd like to think that he was. He had a little bit of a drinking problem. He'd flip a table quick. And he was very strict about how he wanted things and stuff like that, to a positive end. And at the end, he did not want anybody to come to his funeral or his burial. And he wanted it done in secret. And it was in his will. And his friends swore that they would. And he was just very quiet, just off during the days, without letting anybody know. And then released that he had died. And that was at his request. Wanted no notoriety, no fuss, no muss. Went out with a how about that about Andy Griffith? Trippy, right? Yep. And Don Knotts has one of the most beautiful gravestones I've ever seen. So there's a little bit on the Andy Griffith and Mayberry RFD. Steve, are you froze up? If you can hear me, can you go out and come back in? There, I hear you. The ghost get you?
And now you're on the stream.
What?
Let me catch the stream up here. Okay, looks like we're back. It's a little jerky, but I don't know. But I can see you moving and grooving.
I'm moving and grooving. All right. Well, how about this? I'm gonna play this. If you need to go in and come back out, but feel free to commentate. Commentate, is that a word? Commentary.
Kundalini.
What? Kundalini. Yep. What's right now?
Kundalini.
Who was the cheeky monkey last night that said, "Pray for world peace"? It was the cutest thing. I wanted to tell you that. World peace. Yes, let us all have world peace. So let's see what's in. I'm hoping that everything in here is in here. But it's been a long couple weeks. So here we go. And I hope you enjoy it. And please feel free to comment, Steve. I think this is it. Yep, this is it. Yay, right button. Ah! I don't know, Glenn. It's possible. I don't know that one. I got a new cartoon app. I was playing around. Oh.
And yeah, the real life Mayberry was Mount Airy, and Mount Pilot is a real place, but there was no Mayberry, but it was based on Mount Airy.
This is one of the little surprises I wanted to tell you about. There's a story about a flying head in here, people. And I can speak from experience on that one. I have had a head slung at me, and it looked just like this, except mine was a Revolutionary War soldier with the ponytail and a red ribbon in his ponytail. You can read all about that in the first
Red
chapter
Eyes,
of my
Red
book.
Ribbon. That's one of my favorite chapters.
Ribbon. Yep. And there is a flying head in this, and it just so happens to look like as best as they can put together.
And that was something that used to be like a thing in hauntings. You'd have either flying head or screaming skull. Can't tell you
Oh,
how many British ghost stories
that's
I've
her.
read where there
Screaming
was a
skull.
screaming skull.
Amen to that. I know exactly what you mean. But I don't know if you knew that in the San Pedro haunting, this actually happened to Jackie the first week she was there. And she actually went up into the attic to see if there was any money hidden. She'd been drinking with a friend some wine or whatever, and her girlfriend, and they said, well, I got an attic. Let's go up there and look. What's it going to hurt? And went up there looking and didn't know she was going to head come flying at her. And that was one of the first times she sees this guy. They actually got a picture. This is like a fading away. Now, I don't know if this is the old man or the good guy, but off here to the right is a picture that they got. You can clearly see a face in that. So I wanted to stop it just for a minute to let you know, because this is an amazing amount of evidence. Once this story is unpacked, it blows your mind. She also sees him sitting on her son's bed, right below her son sleeping. The camera ripped from the man's hand. Lots of apportation in this, Steve. Objects disappearing, popping up in other places. Glowing globs. First time you heard that one. And there's the house. You know, an unassuming little house, Steve. You know, proven yet again, it doesn't matter what it looks like. And there's actual picture of the plasma ooze that was all over the place. That first picture, not this one. This is the cartoon. Jackie Hernandez. Poor woman, man. I mean, you know, she's pregnant when she moves into this place. Does she have enough to do? 4-year-old little boy, 4-year-old little boy, and she's pregnant. You know, that's enough. And fighting with her ex, obviously, enough to move out. And she's got heads flying at her. What would you do?
Move.
What would you do? And everybody's telling you,
move.
Broke as all get out. So on welfare, admittedly. She didn't have, I'm trying to hold it together, you know.
Didn't have the means to go anywhere else.
Right. Didn't want to go back to her husband. Bad situation, up against the wall, you know. That's the picture that immediately after. Also, there had been many bodies found kind of floating in that area. It was kind of that catch-all in that.
Now, see, there he is. He's holding the camera up in the attic and taking a picture. He wasn't even in the attic when he took that picture of the guy hanging.
This one here?
Yeah.
That's when he come down, I think. Right?
Was
right
that when he came down? That might have been when he...
Right there. See, right
but
there.
He was taking pictures up there when he wasn't up there. He didn't know what he got.
Exactly, Steve. Good eye. This right here, as you can see, is the edge of the hole. He's looking up from down below. Holds that camera up exactly like Steve said. This is well, I kind of fuzzed it out a little bit because, you know, YouTube, I mean, I don't want to let them think that I'm talking about anything bad. I mean, the guy's okay, and it's not somebody that's trying to do this to himself. It's seconds it took for that plastic clothesline, and it didn't just go around his neck, it hooked him up on the nail. So Steve is 100% correct. This was an upshot. Just held up the camera and hit. So 89, they're probably doing what, 35 millimeters, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. That's one of the new pictures released. And that one too, because that one they didn't have back when they did that other, the Australian show. I think Barry looks good as a cartoon. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah.
I think he'd be proud of that. That's nice of her. But she really went through a lot. I saw a interview she did recently, like in the past 15 years. And she still holds true to everything she said. She hasn't changed the story, not even a little bit. Not even a little bit,
Something
guys.
hits me from behind, and it was a Pepsi from the refrigerator.
You know they cannot harm you.
All of a sudden, I feel this thing around my neck, and it's got me hanging, and it's pulling on my leg.
Walls that run with blood, midnight cries of terror. Hurry, please. I don't know how long I can stay here.
Experts believe in ghosts.
When things start flying around you, this is real psychokinetic activity.
Joining me is a woman who claims to still be living with a ghost that she first met in 1989. Please welcome Jackie Hernandez. And also joining us are two real-life Ghostbusters that Jackie called in to document the haunting and who ended up being attacked by the ghost. Please welcome Barry Conrad and Jeff Wheatcraft.
In November of 1988. What made you believe it was haunted?
When I moved in, I didn't believe it was haunted. I didn't think of that. I felt a presence around the house, and I was wondering why I had some of the feelings that I was having, but there was no activity happening, or I didn't witness anything, so I just didn't think that it was haunted. First, there was, I felt a presence, and I had always been the type of person who's always been afraid to be alone. I wasn't afraid of ghosts. I was afraid of people breaking into my house. But for some reason in this house, which was a very easy house to break into if you looked at it, I was not afraid. And I felt that some kind of presence, but I never really thought about it, what it was or what it, I just accepted it as being, okay, I'm not afraid. That's good. That's a good thing. Then my ex-husband, not ex yet, I was separated from him, his house burned down and he temporarily moved in with me. When he moved in, or stayed with us, he wasn't going to stay more than a couple weeks, but when he did come to the house, that's when the first thing started happening. I remember the very first thing that happened was when I walked by my desk and Al was sitting at the desk and a friend of mine was sitting on the couch, and when I walked by the desk, I wasn't close to it, I was a couple feet away, but it was as if this thing came tumbling at me with a pencil holder, and the pencils came out, and I knew I didn't touch it. And I remember looking at Al and him looking at me.
Here comes this male.
And with this question, how did that happen?
That's entirely possible.
An incident like that you can usually brush away, but then after that, that was the first thing that happened, and then little by little, more and more things started happening. I was pregnant at the time with my daughter, and
can you imagine?
I frequently had to use the restroom at night. I always woke up once a night. But the strange thing about that was I always woke up at midnight. I always, regardless what time I went to sleep at night. If I went to sleep at 7, I wake up at midnight to go to the bathroom. If I woke up at 11, or if I went to sleep at 11, I'd wake up at midnight. It didn't matter the time. It was always at midnight. And usually when at that time, something would happen.
Do you hear how she's telling this story?
One time I woke up and all the window shades in the house, we had shades and not curtains, they all went up simultaneously at all the same time, really hard. And that freaked me out. He's not making it up. That's when I saw the apparition sitting on the bunk beds twice. My son and I, we didn't sleep in the bedroom. We had the bedroom was.
Did you hear what she just said? I think she said she saw the old man sitting on the bunk bed twice. She walks into her son's room, and there's this old guy, the way she described him, I think she describes him later on, very gray, pale, what do they call it? Gaunt, and not evil as if to say an evil presence, but he's mad. He's evil. It shows on his face. This is how she described it. So probably very angry looking. But also somewhat frail, in a red flannel shirt, work pants, and work boots. Okay. We think, after looking at all this, I think at least, and most of the people talking about this case, think that this is the guy that got drowned in 1930, that this is the guy. The good presence seems to show up as a different form. And she thinks is mostly that good light, that keeps following her. You'll see her in pictures with it shooting across her face and slinging around her. And Barry Taft said that there was once lights. They were sitting at the table. It's not in this vid, so I'll tell you. They're all sitting around the table because they stayed there for a couple of days and then went back and stayed again for a couple of days and more. But anyway, they're all sitting there, and all of a sudden they're talking about it, and they're getting ready to take pictures, and the lights just start like many lights circling her head and going around and going up the wall. The cat used to follow the lights around, the little lights. So all kind of crazy. What, like, what more do you want, right? In this house, this is paranormal gold, I swear.
In the house, we had shades and not curtains. They all went up simultaneously at all at the same time, really hard, and that freaked me out. That's when I saw the apparition sitting on the bunk beds twice. My son and I, we didn't sleep in the bedroom. We had the bedroom was set up for the kids. I had a crib in there and a bunk bed for him, but he slept in the front room with me, and I didn't have a bed at the time. We were sleeping on a mattress on the floor, and I had a cat at the time too that I just recently got, and the cat was like a really mellow cat, but when it got into the house, it was strange. It acted really peculiar. It would chase the shadow around the house, and it would at times when it would just act abnormal. It would follow the lights. It would chase the shadows. It would arch its back like cats do when they're really afraid of something. It wouldn't go outside of the house, but it wouldn't come back in once it was outside either. You could tell when animals sense something like that. They really did. But
she speaks the truth.
After Al moved in, he only stayed a week before I kicked him out, and then that's when things started happening, and my friends started witnessing things also. The apparition was an old man. He was very thin. He was full-figured. He was sitting cross-legged on the bunk beds the first time that I saw him, and it was at the time at midnight when I was using the bathroom, and you had to go through the bedroom in order to get to the bathroom. And there was always a light on in the back. It was a yellow light. It was on in the closet, so there was light in the room. It wasn't as if I was going through a dark room. And I saw him sitting on the bed, and I turned real quick. And even though I didn't see him when I turned, I knew what I had seen. He was very grayish in appearance, and he looked as if he was very angry and evil at the same time, which made me feel uneasy. It wasn't like a friendly, welcoming type thing. It was like he was very angry, and he just seemed like, I don't know, he looked like a corpse. He looked like a corpse with
look at this, Steve.
The way his skin tone was, and you couldn't see through him. He wasn't transparent.
He was solid.
Like that. But he didn't look like a person either. And the only thing they would think his shirt, you could see the colorings of his shirt and his clothing. He was wearing gray pants, and his shirt was a red flannel shirt.
Look at that! Oh my gosh!
Boots.
Spooky.
And she's so calm.
He kind of resembled Jack Albertson from the actor in a way, but his look was just an evil, angry
Chico
look.
and the Man.
Really?
Yeah, and he was in I think he's in Willy Wonka or the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Okay,
I felt
I got
uneasy.
Yep.
He's a character actor. He's been on a lot of stuff.
It wasn't, like I said, a welcoming
I see him
look.
now. Yep.
But
wow.
Whose territory was it, mine or his? You know, he was unwelcome as far as I was concerned.
Didn't you see a disembodied head in the attic?
Well, my purpose for going in the attic in the first place was a friend of mine who lived in an old house. She found some money in her attic from a prior tenant who, I guess, kept it up in the attic. And I thought, I have an old house with an attic, and I was just talking to a friend of mine, Chrissy, who was there with me, and I said, well, why don't I just go up and give it a shot? You know, what do I got to lose? So the attic door was directly above in the laundry room, so I stood on the washing machine.
That door just looks creepy.
And
doesn't it though?
Opened the trap door, and I was looking around, and I remember feeling these eyes looking at me. It was as if somebody was right behind me, just looking right at me. And I turned around, and I didn't see anything. Now the attic was empty, and it was dark, and you couldn't see anything really. And I turned around again because I got this very uncomfortable feeling that something was definitely there and looking right at me.
That's
and as
creepy attic.
I looked towards the far side of the attic, this head, it was a chubby man, and the head started at the far side of the attic and came directly at me with. I didn't even have time to think about my reaction. My legs just gave out from underneath me. I was so scared. I didn't have time to think what it was or really look at it or, decide what I was going to do. My legs did the decision making for me.
Attics are creepy.
The feeling was pure fright. I was scared to death. I mean, my legs would just turn to rubber. I fell off the washing machine. My friend was right below me, She didn't see anything, but she saw the look on my face, and she saw that I just fell completely off the washing machine. And I couldn't stand up after that for a minute, just because my legs just said no. You know, they wouldn't work.
Sounds honest to me.
What do you remember about August 8th of 1989, the night that the paranormal research team came to the house?
When the investigative team came, Barry Taft arrived first, and I began telling him the things that were happening around the house. And shortly after that is when Barry Conrad and Jeff came, and they knocked on the door, and I was sitting on the couch, and I just said, "Come in." Barry Conrad was the first to come in, and he had this look on his face like a kid at Christmas time. I mean, like he was gonna open up a present, like, you know, he was really looking forward to possibly seeing something. Well, Jeff comes in, and you could tell that he was very, very skeptical. And he almost was like he didn't even want to be there at that time. He would rather have been any place else but there. But that's what I sensed from him anyway. When they started going around, after I told them a few more things and answered a few more questions, they started going around the house and each doing their own thing. Jeff taking pictures of different things around the house and different spots that I had told him where things had happened. And he went up into the attic, or he stood on the washing machine, because of what I said about the disembodied head and my experience of that. Everybody was in their own separate little groups. There was a couple people just talking. And I was talking to Larry Brooks, who was an artist who was drawing pictures of certain things around the house. And Jeff came down out of the attic, and Larry Brooks asked him if he felt anything up there. And he described a feeling of being watched from behind, something looking at him. And I instantly could relate to what he felt, because I felt the same thing myself when I was up there before I saw the head. And Larry Brooks asked him if he would what he would think about going back up into the attic and taking shots with his camera over his shoulder. It was he went back up into the attic to take shots in hopes of catching something behind him, and he was just going to take shots with the camera over his shoulder.
There's that shot, so creepy.
And the first time he went up and took pictures, he just stood on the washing machine. The second time he went up, he went completely into the attic. And when he did this, everybody, like I said, was in their own little groups talking. And we all hear this scream. We hear Jeff just this loud scream. And everybody, instantly runs to the kitchen, which is right there by the laundry room. And we see Jeff. Jeff comes out of the attic, and he looks as white as a ghost himself. He was shaking. And everybody, what happened? What happened? And Jeff said, the fucking thing took the camera right out of my hands. And he's just sitting there, he took the camera right out of my hands. And he described it as if a rope was around his camera and pulled out of his hands.
That's a good jerk.
They went back up into the attic. Yep. Barry ran out to his car to get his video equipment, which he didn't bring in right away. And they went back up to look for the camera. And it took quite a while to find it. There was nothing in the attic. It was all dark. But it took them like about 45 minutes to find the camera. There was 3 guys up there looking for it.
How about that, Steve?
And when they did find it, the camera was on one side and the lens was on the completely other side of the attic. They were separated and taken apart. And the only other thing that was found up there was a National Geographic magazine. When Barry Conrad went up with Jeff into the attic that night, a couple things had happened. First, his camera would die as soon as he went up into the attic. It would just quit. But when he brought it down, it would work. It was as if it was just some kind of power thing.
You see Thin Lizzie's comment there?
But it would work down below. And the other thing that happened was we hear Jeff yell again.
I have too.
And apparently, right in front of Barry Conrad,
really
Jeff was pushed.
I'd like to have him back on this show and see if we can get him again.
I'd love to, yeah.
Pushing my back.
I'll message him and
like
see.
A huge hand just pushing my back.
I witnessed it, right?
And you were right there.
I couldn't see what was pushing him, although I looked. We had a 1,000-watt light, which is about, I would say, probably to my right, somewhere right in this area.
And again, I could relate to what he felt at that time with the hand, because I felt that it's pushed me a couple times previously. And I knew the feeling that he described was a large bony hand. It was like that of a skeleton, but it was like 5 times the size of a normal hand.
I mean, that's like pretty solid evidence.
But you could feel the imprint of the fingers and everything. And he described exactly the same thing that I experienced. And Barry Conrad, who witnessed it, said that there was as if a force was pushing him, but he didn't see anything actually touching him. As I recall, Jeff had to go get medical attention after that for his back, because it did something to when that happened. Something happened to his back and he had to go in. I remember when they both came down from the attic.
I did one of them get scratched too, 3 scratches.
Jeff had also seen lights in the attic zoom by, which was another thing that I have also witnessed in the house prior to their
see the glow on
it? But it seemed to be that he was the only one that it was focused on, and he was the only one that actually saw things. And he actually got a still shot of one of the lights that was zooming by. And he also saw a giant shadow, and everybody said that the odor was very strong, and everybody could smell it, and it was actually bothering some of them. And the whole feeling of the room just changed. It went from all of a sudden from being just an interview to something that was actually happening. I mean, this was actually happening, and nobody could explain it. And everybody was very scared. The looks on their faces, you just didn't know what was happening next. Everybody was in the kitchen. We were all congregated, talking, discussing the events. And then something started walking in the attic. Nobody was up there at that time.
You hear that?
Wow.
That's actual recording of what they heard walking around in the attic. This case has got everything, I'm telling you, paranormal gold. And nobody's still talking about it. It blows my mind. The end of part 1. There's like another 5 minutes or something like that. It's incredible, isn't it? Oh, no. She left the house. It was over just under 2 years. And, like I said, Barry, when you talk to him, he'll tell you it's still, I think he thinks more about this one. I mean, I can't put words in his mouth, but of this one, and there's that picture, man, that's like a good picture. You could see right through it, but that plain as day. But more than, the entity, he has a whole nother theory on what happened with the entity, separate from the movie. That was a movie. But that case, I have to say I disagree with him, but I wasn't there. He was, so there's that part. But this one,
walls that run
right
with
there
blood,
together.
midnight cries of terror.
Hurry, please. I don't know how long I can stay here.
It's all part of the
That's horrible. I know, Aunt Edna. What do you think?
No, after that night, I didn't.
Yep. That's truth, Lizzie. A lot of people don't know about it. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're doing this tonight. Absolutely.
To go back to the house. I stayed with a friend after that, but I still had all my belongings in the house, and we still went back on the weekends just for investigative purposes.
She left all her stuff there.
But I didn't live in the house now. I stayed with a friend.
If the house was haunted, why didn't you move sooner?
Because I didn't have the means to. I would have loved to have moved prior to that. I would have loved to have moved out when things started happening. I became scared.
Not supposed to judge, right? We don't know.
I was a single mother. I had 2 kids. I was on welfare. I did not have the means of just picking up and moving because I was bothered by something in the house. I was forced to stay there, in other words. I didn't have a choice.
Yep, there it is.
I was forced out.
We've all been there.
Because I was at the end of my line, at my limit's end. I was lucky to have found a place to
There's
stay
one of the
temporarily
gloves. He
when
looks
I
like a
did
peanut.
with 2 kids.
Did you see
it
that?
wasn't easy.
Yep.
And
see that roll by? It looked like a
things
peanut.
worked into place. I ended up going back to my husband, which I did not want to. That was not a matter of choice. That was just a matter of circumstances. I couldn't stay with this person forever, and I had to find a place to go. And also, when Al was around, it was dormant. Nothing happened. And it was kind of like a love-hate thing. I hated to see him, but I loved it when he came because I had peace of mind for the time that he was there. So for that reason, I also thought that I would rather be abused by something that I could see rather than something I couldn't see.
Wow, boy, that's a hard choice there.
That statement right there, Stephen. You
Yeah.
heard it too. It didn't get past Steve, not Mr. Stockton. What she just said, listen to her. Every woman in here, and again, guys, I don't mean nothing, but as a woman, listen to her words, and there's this point where when a woman's been assaulted. There's this point when a woman's you know what I'm saying? This is one of those moments. Listen to that again.
So for that reason, I also thought that I would rather be abused by something that I could see rather than something I couldn't see.
Boy,
so because of
that's hard to hear right there, but that's
I know
she's speaking the truth.
To him, and
I know.
Moved up to a town.
That right
I was
there.
forced out.
Sorry, I messed up there
because I was at the end of my line at my limit's end.
I think
I was
fixed.
lucky to have found a place to stay temporarily when I did with 2 kids. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
And
more true.
Things worked into place. I ended up going back to my husband, which I did not want to. That was not a matter of choice. That was just a matter of circumstances.
Desperation.
I couldn't stay with this person forever, and I had to find a place to go. And also, when Al was around, it was dormant.
I think she already
Nothing
said
happened.
this. I'm sorry.
And it was kind of like a love-hate thing. I hated to see him, but I loved it when he came because I had peace of mind for the time that he was there.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I also thought that I would rather be abused by something that I could see rather than something I couldn't see. So because of all those little
sorry
things,
in the editing,
I ended up
babes,
going back
but I got it here
to him, and we moved up to
now
a
look
town up north in Weldon.
And it
thinking
followed.
We could start all over and make our marriage
She did
work.
have problems after. She did have problems after, but I'll tell you what I think that is, and I think Steve will agree with me. Some of this, I think, was her at being pregnant. I believe she has abilities. She was able to see a lot of these things. It's not the first time she's seen things since, from what I understand.
Oh, and almost like a poltergeist situation. She was under a lot of duress. She's giving off all kinds of energy. She could have attracted things. She could have caused things to happen inadvertently.
Absolutely. 100% agree. And
I don't
when you have that energy
happened.
And you pent that energy down, it's going to find an exit. It's going to find a way to manifest it. It definitely is. And I could say, and Barry would say the same thing, and I've heard him say it, that, and again, I keep hearkening back to him because he was there. And because this other Barry, the guy who recorded a lot of this and since has gone on to do more documentaries about it and continued on in the paranormal world as well, I don't believe this guy, Jeff, that was hung, has been that deep into it since then. But those two have stayed in it. And like I said, Barry has never backed off of this evidence. And he was there. He, held it in his hands. So the same as Mark Nesbitt and Carol Nesbitt, as I stated before. So that's 2 that I know of where evidence has been tested. It looked amber, reddish, orange, brownish goo, tested and came up human DNA. Someone else you might know that speaks on this is Dan Aykroyd. And if you don't know, Dan Aykroyd is very deep into the paranormal, extremely deep into UFOs, wonderful theories and knowledge and years of collected data because his father is also deep into it and has been for decades. His dad's written books very much in the kind of like the flavor of Peter Underwood. And, almost, not so much a Harry Price, but it does have a little, because he goes way back. I believe he was even in the ghost investigation, the official one there, the big one in UK where Peter Underwood was president for like decades. I think they were involved, but don't quote me on that. And that's another one. Dan Aykroyd has often said in some of his interviews that he would love to get a hold of some ghost DNA and test it. Well, here it's been done. In 1989, my good friend Mark Nesbitt and Carol, the wonderful Carol, the wind beneath his wings, I say that to his face, that if she hadn't said, let me take it back to Gettysburg College and have it tested, we'd have never known, because the stuff disappeared like it had never been there. And the stuff did the same. I can't explain that, Steve. It's almost like an apportation of material, just like a set of keys or a wallet or the eggs falling through the
And then
ceiling.
there's cases where when things evaporated, there is like an ectoplasm or something that's attached to them that they're covered in, that then that goes away.
Yeah, there it is. There it is again. So I state again, Steve, this paranormal gold here from 1989. And, we're digging around in, for stories now today that don't have half of what this has, and watching shows, that are zacking it up out there and, and don't have half. And it's been here all along. And this is nothing. This scratches the surface. You didn't know that she had flying heads coming at her in the attic, as much as we've known about it, heard the stories through the years.
The Australian version of the story was far superior to anything that I've ever seen.
I second that emotion. And, it's just, it was absolutely delightful to dig into this. I feel so sorry for her. I have heard interviews of her that, a little more recent, 10, 15, 20 years ago, or maybe 15 years ago, that she stands by everything she said. She's gone on and she's, remarried and, left way gone. It stands by everything she said, one of those that was just steady on. And I think it has everything, Steve. It's got everything, application, evidence.
Linchpin cases, Keystone case, that has every aspect that you could think of that you can throw in there, other than the kitchen sink, and that's probably in there somewhere. You got the washing machine, so
yeah. And it is very much like the Enfield case and stuff like that, where all these people have no reason to lie, came in and see. There is, evidence about evidence and, documentation and written down interviews and everything of everybody that was in the house, all her friends, multiple people saw different things. The guy, the darn orb leads her from her car through the graveyard to the gravestone and disappears into the gravestone. That was one of them. Now, I think, listening to this and digging through all the paperwork, I think there was at least 3. I think there was a different guy that was upstairs in the attic, and the face of the one guy may have been the nice one. I don't know, the one that led her to the gravestone. And then there was another one.
You had the old man, and you had this and that. Yeah, I think there was multiple spirits active there.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. And, even her husband saw things, didn't want to talk about it, didn't want to be interviewed, didn't want to be a part of it. And he would just had this personality. You can pick that up from what things she said. But, and he never, he said, yeah, I saw it and I don't want to talk about it. He's one of those, And so even he. So, like I said, from the beginning of this, you got 100 years of sitting here. And with all you guys, we're probably up to what? We've got to be in... if you're adding on decades of experience. And I think we can say in this episode of the San Pedro haunting that ghosts exist, Steve.
Absolutely.
I threw my leg over that fence a long time ago.
3-4 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. We've been digging ever since, though. It never gets old, does it, buddy? Tell us where you're going to be this week and what's going on.
I'm going to be on the radio in the UK, North Yorkshire, with Paul Sinclair on Truth Proof. And it's a radio show, and I think they do like a podcast and a YouTube version and a Facebook version. Looking forward to that. Other stuff coming up this week, as always. I've got stuff going up on 13 Past Midnight and on Missing Persons and Mysteries. I'll probably have a live stream somewhere sometime this week. And always something going on. And then I've got the radio thing I'm doing on iVlog TV. Let me put a link in here. It's High Desert Radio.
Throw a link down there. And 13 Past Midnight for sure. And that's what
Thin Lizzie Borden is my co-host over there on 13.
Yeah, I've seen you guys work together. It's great.
Good stuff coming up. She's an awesome co-host.
Yeah.
And she's got a lot of connections in paranormal and UFOs and stuff too. So happy to have her step up into that position.
Because man, you got to have a group of people, because again, I stay in my lane.
Hey, Andrew.
If I don't know, I tell people. I get guests on. I go, look, I'm learning. I don't know anything about that. What it might be what they're doing, or their equipment, or, they're deep into, this over here. I'm learning tonight, I mean, I know a little bit about this, or I've read the book or whatever, and that's the way to do it. Take on what your consciousness is ready to take on. Sometimes it's your guides. They're guiding you and going, no, 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 we don't want you to go down that path. You're going this way. And it makes sense later on down the line why you did that. But at the time, it seems like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? So, I go with the flow now. I've learned to listen to the intuition. And if I'm guided to go in one direction, well, that's what I do. And sometimes you think you're full speed ahead, you're headed towards something, and you think that's why you're there. And boy, I'll tell you, life will throw a hard left at you, and you'll figure out, okay, I was just meant to get to this spot, because here we go. So that's the way life is, right, Steve? So hit that like on the way out, everybody. Hit the like, subscribe, share the show. We're having a good time, as Dusty Slay says. We're having a good time. That's for you, Dusty. If you haven't listened to Dusty, if you need some laughs tonight, look him up on YouTube. He's got a great channel. If you like country music, he does a real funny skit about the five best country songs about killing somebody, or the 5 country songs about being a working man, and he'll tell you, he says there's not too many songs about being a working woman, because that means something different. But it's fun stuff. And I think you'll enjoy it if you like him and Nick Burgetsky. I mean, they ain't paying me to give you any hints up there, but again, I highly recommend watching The Ravine. If you need further, you want to move up to that next level and see a little bit about what's actually going on with the spiritual warfare, and as from the vantage point of several people going through the same thing. It's an amazing movie. The 5 people you meet in heaven. I'll see you next week. It's going to be crazy with the Valentines. And I know there's a lot of people that don't understand that, but when you're working for a small family that enjoys chaos, like
drives on,
and you're in there 12 hours a day, your life is chaos. And I have 0 days off between now and the day after Valentine's.
All hands on deck.
There will be shows, but Cisco will only be a third here, and we'll figure it out.
We'll take a lot of funny honey to get you through.
We'll have a good time. Yeah,
it's
kicking in tonight. It's kicking in tonight. So I didn't have much time to do the featured artist tonight, but here is Steve's link. And please go over there 13 past midnight. Catch Steve, catch Thin Lizzy with Steve. They do a great show over there. And a lot of us, go over there to live chat. And we've got other family members in there too. So you're going to see friendly faces and you're going to hear some good stuff. We love you. Here is the book. We Are All Children in the Wilderness of the Afterlife. If you like the stories that Steve and I tell, you're going to love this book. It's really neat the way Steve comes behind it, gives a color commentary, and he and I have been friends for a very long time, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And I never get tired of telling old stories with you, my friend.
And I love it. I look forward to my Monday nights, and I know I joke with you about it and say, "What kind of old bullshit are we talking this way?" But that's just
every time we pull it out of the gate,
because it's great, and
right out the gate. No pun intended.
Because you get in there and you dig and you ferret out stuff that I know a lot of these other people haven't heard it either, because everybody hasn't done this for a lifetime like we have. But you've got a knack for digging up obscure stuff or obscured facts about stuff that we already know.
Baby. Cisco will ferret it out. I get down that rabbit hole and the rabbits run out. Let me tell you something.
Bring a dozen or two out with you when you go down there.
When I get into this spring and everything else, I'm putting together my JFK. And I'm telling you, that's going to be a humdinger, man. I'm telling you. Hey, David Jones Locker, welcome in, sweetheart. You just on time to say goodnight. I thought of you today. I was looking at some ghost apparition projection stuff, which is, trying to put all these pieces together, make videos. And it was all pirate scene and cannons and stuff. It was something else. So I thought of you. I said, man, that'd be cool for David Jones. So we're going to have to do haunted pirates again. Maybe we'll talk about the lady who married the 300-year-old pirate. And Tiger Lily's out there somewhere. So hey,
somewhere in Indiana. She the weather's
Indiana kind of wants me.
the weather's got her under the weather, so she took
Oh.
a powder and went to bed early tonight. So
And what Salvador said, we
yeah,
all
indeed, the
heard.
ghost in the background. Thank you, Ghost, for making fun of us.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. And I'm telling you, Ghost, if you're listening, we don't
Oh my
need any
God!
more
How
evidence.
much more do you need?
We don't need any more evidence. And if you're out there and you do need help and you're listening in, Ghost, please just look up. Don't look down. Look up. Connect back into that golden thread that connects us all to source and go on home. But of course, it's your free will. So if you want to stay here and listen to our old rotten jokes for another century, you just go ahead, because that's just, it's about, we're going to keep going till we can't. From Kendall can't. Isn't that true, Steve?
That's absolutely right.
All right. Tonight is our
feature. Have my
featured.
microphone when they pry it from my cold dead fingers.
There you go, baby. There you go. So tonight, our featured artist, I only have the one song, but it was wonderful and apropos. It's called Spooktacular, and it's by Wayne Jones. And again, these are wonderful composers. That's what I call them on audio, YouTube audio library. And I'm going to take us out with that. Have a good night, Steve. I'll see you next Monday. I will be here this weekend.
Love
so
you guys.
just don't
Love
know
you
what
too,
it's going to be.
Cisco.
I love you too, babies. I hope y'all got to see Bucephus. Didn't he get big? All right. Good night. See you on 13 past midnight, darling. Have a good night.
See you over
Keep
there.
your feet under the covers. Keep your closet door shut, because there are things that go bump in the night. Good night, everybody.